Chapter 828. Heaven-Destroying Sword Formation Lease reading Omicron N Novel Cool. Omicron M. The Northern Jin Kingdom is challenging Lord Ling Tian of the Freedom King Dynasty. He's at the Northern Supremacy Peak. The army of the Carefree Dynasty has already arrived at the Northern Jin Kingdom. The Northern Jin Kingdom actually wants to send 4 martial god experts to challenge Sir Ling Tian. What is it? It can't be. Shameless. The Northern Jin Kingdom is a great kingdom. How dare they use a martial god to challenge a martial saint? Don't you feel ashamed? Although Sir Ling Tian is extremely powerful, the Northern Jin Kingdom shouldn't be so shameless. Truly a disgrace to the kingdom. I'm from the Northern Jin Kingdom. I really regret being from the Northern Jin Kingdom. Sigh, the war between the two countries has actually reached this stage. Countless top-notch figures have gathered at the North Soaring Peak. This will be a grand occasion for the entire Black Continent. The next day, the entire Mystic Moon Empire was in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the big cities and the commanderies, the countries or the kingdoms, the most lively event was the Northern Jin Kingdom's challenge to Li Ling Tian. In an instant, the news of the battle at the peak of the North Soaring Peak spread throughout the entire Mystic Moon Empire. Moreover, even the powerhouses from the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire had rushed over from far away to the North Soaring Peak to wait for Li Lingtian's arrival. As a result, the experts and army of the Xiaoyao dynasty were even more furious. The entire Xianzhou knew about this. If Li Ling Tian did not accept the challenge, it would affect his reputation. It was indeed detestable that the Northern Jin Kingdom would use such a tactic to deal with Li Ling Tian. I didn't expect things to come to this. How could the Northern Jin Kingdom think of this? In the Mystic Moon Empire, a cold and sweet voice said. Her face was covered with a veil, and no one knew what expression she had. If Li Ling Tian doesn't go this time, his reputation will be tarnished. However, if he wins, his reputation will be even more irreparable. However, no matter how powerful he is, it's impossible for him to be a match for 4 martial god experts. In the imperial palace of the Heavenly Sun Empire, an old man opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a sharp light that was as sharp as lightning. I didn't expect the Northern Jin Kingdom to use such a shameless move. However, no matter how heaven-defying you are, you've lost this time. A faint smile appeared on Gong Sun Pioya's face. It was as if he had seen the moment he was defeated and killed, the day the Xiaoyao dynasty was destroyed. The Northern Soaring Peak was not a single mountain peak. It was a mountain range that stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles. The entire mountain range was extremely rich in spiritual qi, and there were high mountains everywhere. Each mountain peak was extremely dangerous. However, in the depths of the mountain range, there was a mountain peak that was 10,000 meters tall. The mountain peak was called the North Soaring Peak. The name of this mountain range came from the North Soaring Peak. Now, the previously unknown North Soaring Peak had become the most famous mountain in the entire Black Continent. Countless kingdoms, the 3 empires, and the experts and ordinary people in the world knew that the North Soaring Peak was about to welcome a showdown. The ruler of the Carefree Dynasty, the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent, and a martial saint had become the target of the 4 martial gods of the Northern Jin Kingdom. This would be history and a miracle. This was because a first sky martial saint was actually defeated by 4 martial gods. What kind of concept was this? Whoosh whoosh. Swoosh swoosh. In the Northern Ling mountain range, experts could be seen flying over from time to spectate the battle. In just a few days, the Northern Ling mountain range was filled with experts. The experts of the Northern Jin Kingdom had been waiting for a long time here. Countless experts of the Carefree Dynasty had also come here to observe the terrain clearly, and check if there were any formations or other ambushes. The number of powerhouses increased, but there was no response from Li Ling Tian. Everyone knew that the news came from the North Jin Kingdom. Li Ling Tian from the Carefree Dynasty had not responded at all. It was unknown if he would come to fight. Boring. The world was in an uproar. The news of the battle at the Northern Soaring Peak was spread everywhere. However, Li Ling Tian, who was the center of attention for the entire Xianzhou, was smiling faintly on the war god. After receiving Long Da's voice transmission and receiving the news, his face revealed a disdainful expression. Big brother Ling Tian, are you going? Tang Ziming and the others knew about this matter and had different views on it. However, the consensus was that Li Lingtian should take it himself. As Li Lingshan's wife and family, they only cared about Li Lingshan's safety and did not care about his reputation. Although the Northern Jin Kingdom has a good plan, they can't expect it to come true. You want to rely on 4 martial gods to kill me? What a joke. We have to go, but we have to be careful of some things and conspiracies. Li Lingtian muttered to himself for a long time before he finally spoke. After that, his expression turned extremely cold. Since the other party had such a plan, they would fulfill their wish. In this way they could also deal with the Northern Jin Kingdom. They all knew that the Northern Jin Kingdom was not simple, so they also wanted to take this opportunity to eliminate the Northern Jin Kingdom. He would be happy to defeat the Northern Jin Kingdom without using a single soldier. However, he had to take the risk and see what tricks the Northern Jin Kingdom would play in front of the experts. Today is the 7th day. Let's wait until the 10th day. You can have a good rest these 2 days and reach the peak of your mental state. Then, you can defeat the experts of the Northern Jin Kingdom. Seeing that Li Lingtian had made up his mind, Huangfu Yuyan did not say anything else. Since there was no other way, heading to the North Soaring Peak was a good idea. To beat him at his own game depended on strength. In the end, whoever could stand until the end would be the winner. You guys go and rest first. I'll cultivate the myriad returning swords. Li Lingtian nodded and instructed Huangfu Yuyan and the others to rest while he cultivated myriad returning swords alone. This myriad returning swords had previously been cultivated to the transcendent state, and had already reached the level of turning the rotten into the miraculous. However, during this period of time, he discovered that this myriad returning swords was not just a group attack. It was as simple as using the myriad swords. Moreover, its power could be raised to a higher level. It could fuse the sword control technique passed down from ancient mighty figures together, and use several of the strongest swords together to achieve destructive power. He divided this myriad returning swords into individual sword formations, which were the true sword formations of the heaven-destroying sword formation. The heaven-destroying sword formation was divided into 2 types. One was a sword formation, and the other was a sword move. However, the sword moves and sword formations were both called the heaven-destroying sword formation. The sword howl of heaven and earth was a sword technique, and the myriad returning swords was a sword formation. However, he had truly comprehended the myriad returning swords now. It was not as simple as the myriad returning swords. The true terrifying sword array was hidden in the myriad returning swords. In the past, he only cultivated powerful divine powers and cascaded treasures. He rarely truly understood these divine powers and skills. The sword control technique was also included in this heaven-destroying sword formation. It was a sword control technique left behind by an ancient mighty figure. During this period of time, he had already fused the sword array and array path in the myriad returning swords and truly comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation. Right now, there are only the Tianyu sword, the heavenly fault sword, the heavenly one sword, and the divine martial profound heaven sword. There are only 4 powerful swords in total. I can only use the other divine artifact level swords. The 9 powerful swords form the 9 annihilating sword formation. When the time comes, I'll create my own set of swords. That way, I can evolve the sword formation to a higher level. Li Lingtian left the war god and arrived on the island with a faint smile on his face. As he muttered to himself, he activated his divine sense and the 3 heavenly swords and the divine martial mysterious heavenly sword appeared in front of him. Then, he took out 5 divine weapons from the divine dragon ring. Suddenly, 9 sharp swords floated in front of him and spun continuously. Myriad returning swords was one of the moves of the heaven-destroying sword formation, but it was the most mysterious move. Moreover, it was the key to the heaven-destroying sword formation. Only those with great opportunities and talent could comprehend the real heaven-destroying sword formation from the myriad returning swords. The heaven-destroying sword formation was also known as the 9-9 heaven-destroying sword formation, which had 9 layers. The first level required 9 saint artifact level swords to form a sword formation. Its power could destroy the heavens and earth, and it was extremely mystical. Li Lingtian had comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation, which was also known as the 9-9 heaven-destroying sword formation. He had never expected this accident. He had never expected that he had never truly comprehended the heaven-destroying sword formation that he had always thought he had control over. Fortunately, he had comprehended it now. His consciousness moved, controlling the 9 sharp swords and casting spells. Immediately, his spiritual sense and magic seals controlled the sharp swords, and an incomparably magical sword formation appeared in front of him. Sword kinesis. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With a soft shout, Li Lingtian waved his hands and 9 sharp swords swiftly swept across the air. Wherever the swords passed, they carried a destructive aura, and there was a slight connection between the 9 swords. Gradually, the 9 sharp swords flew around Li Lingtian. The sky and earth were like 9 meteors dancing in the air. They were truly glowing, and the endless sword aura and sword radiance were everywhere. The space was cut into pieces by the sharp sword, and it was cut again after recovering in an instant. Instantly, Li Lingtian was suspended in the air as 9 sharp swords danced around with his consciousness. His consciousness was omnipresent, and so were the sharp swords. The sharp swords controlled by the consciousness were tens of thousands of times stronger than the myriad returning swords. Now, he understood that the myriad returning swords ultimately depended on one's cultivation realm and the strength of the treasure. It could also deal with countless experts of the same level, but it was not as powerful as the current 19 annihilating sword formation. Retract. Li Lingtian looked at the sword chi and the 9 sharp swords in the sky. A faint smile appeared on his face, but his divine consciousness had been greatly depleted. If this continued, he would not be able to cast the heaven-destroying sword formation for long. This was also because if it was the consciousness of other experts, they would not be able to support the execution of the 19 annihilating heaven sword formation at all. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the 9 sharp swords transformed into shooting stars and returned to Li Lingtian. The sharp swords were lined up in a row with destructive sword aura on them and wisps of sword radiance wrapped around them. Chapter 829. The Battle of the North Soaring Peak. 1. Li's reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M. Li Lingtian retracted the 3 heavenly swords and the divine martial heavenly sword into his dantian. Then, he sat cross-legged and began refining the other 5 divine weapons. Although they were divine weapons, Li Lingtian did not take them seriously. This was because he also had peerless divine artifacts and ancient divine artifacts, as well as even more mysterious treasures. These treasures were rarely used, and there was no chance to use them. Naturally, he would not use some individual divine artifacts. Now, in order to cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation, he could only make use of these divine weapons. Moreover, after the divine artifacts formed the sword formation, its power was countless times greater than before. It was no longer a single divine artifact, but a complete sword formation. A day had passed. After refining the 5 divine artifacts, he could put them back into his body. Following that, Li Lingtian spent most of his time revising his divine ability skills or calming himself down. The other option was to cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation. He had already thought about it. He would probably have to use it on the North Soaring Peak this time. No matter which aspect it would be disadvantageous for him to fight against 4 people alone. No matter how powerful he was only one person. Moreover, he was facing 4 martial god experts who were 1 realm higher than him. He could easily deal with the first firmament war god in a one-on-one battle, but it was still very difficult for him to deal with 4 people in a one-on-one battle. Therefore, he had been thinking about group attacks and defense. If he used a single attack, he would suffer the destructive attacks of the other 3 martial gods. He did not dare to take the risk of letting the martial gods attack him. Unless he found a good opportunity to instantly kill the martial god. But such an opportunity was very difficult to find. In a great battle between experts, victory and death could be decided in a single thought. There would be no chance for one to use a powerful move. Now, he had finally found a few ways to deal with the enemy. Every time he fought, he would calculate the moves and cultivation techniques of the enemy in advance. There were also some accidents to consider. What if he encountered an accident? These were all things that he had to consider. An expert might seem to be using powerful methods to kill his opponent, but they were constantly scheming. Every step had gone through countless calculations. If he was not careful, he would not be killed. Li Lingtian had cultivated the divine soul's eye and his mind had reached an extreme level. He was no match for a warrior. Hence, his reaction speed was the fastest during a battle. Time passed day by day. Finally, the 15th day of the 8th month arrived. On this day, countless experts could be seen in the entire northern Ling mountain range. They were all experts above the Martial Emperor realm because only Martial Emperor realm experts dared to come here. There were hundreds of thousands of powerhouses gathered in the northern Soaring Mountains. Most of them were martial emperors and martial saints. Although there were countless martial honors, they were all far away from the outskirts of the mountain range and were extremely far away from the northern soaring peak. Swoosh, swoosh. All of a sudden, the sound of air being torn apart continued, and super experts arrived from time to time. Although all the experts were gathered in the northern Ling mountain range, they did not dare to enter within 1,000 miles of the northern Ling mountain. This was because the war between the martial gods was an existence that could destroy the world. If they were too close, it would be too late for them to retreat. Isn't that the first martial saint of the mystic moon empire, Kong Qing Tian? That's nothing. Look over there. He's a pseudo-martial god expert. There are quite a number of experts in the Heavenly Sun Empire. The experts of the Sky Blue Empire are also gathered here. It seems that there are quite a number of experts coming this time. This time, all the powerhouses of the entire Xian continent should have gathered. I wonder if Sir Ling Tian will come. Actually, with his reputation, it doesn't matter if he comes or not. That's right. He's a first sky martial saint, so there's no need for him to accept the challenge from the martial god. Besides, he killed 6 martial god experts and the avatar of a venerable in front of all the experts in the world. He's the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent. Even if he doesn't come, it won't affect his reputation at all. On the contrary, he will give the Northern Jin Kingdom a slap in the face. What reputation? Even if he doesn't have a reputation, he doesn't care about fame at all with his powerful alchemy skills. In the northern Soaring mountain range, powerhouses gathered. However, these powerhouses were completely insignificant under the halo of the Northern Soaring Peaks Challenge. Countless experts discussed animatedly. The entire mountain range was extremely lively. Furthermore, countless renowned powerhouses from the Xian continent were gathered here to witness Li Lingtian's strength. I wonder if this Li Lingtian will come? 4 middle-aged men were sitting cross-legged on the peak of the northern Soaring Peak. They were expressionless. The 4 middle-aged men looked exactly the same. One could only tell from their clothes that they were the white-robed man, the black-robed man, the gray-robed man, and the blue-robed man. If they didn't have such clothes, even his parents wouldn't be able to tell them apart. The black-robed man said indifferently. He raised his head and looked into the distance as if he was waiting for something. He will come. When the time comes, he won't be able to return. The man in white closed his eyes to rest but answered as if he knew Li Lingtian very well. Let's be careful lest Li Lingtian defeats us one by one. The black-robed man reminded, his tone extremely cold. Could it be that a martial saint is really heaven-defying? Even if he is heaven-defying, he is just courting death in front of the 4 of us. After we settle this matter, we'll go back. There's nothing fun in this place, and it doesn't help our cultivation at all. The blue-robed man said disdainfully. He didn't put a martial saint in his eyes at all. However, we still have to be careful. If it doesn't work, the black-robed man's voice was still as cold as ever. However, when he finished speaking, his lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Instead, he used a secret voice transmission. Seconds passed by and it was already noon. However, Li Lingtian still did not show up. Countless powerhouses and armies from the Carefree dynasty were also in the mountains. They would be there to help if Li Lingtian was in any danger. Moreover, with the army and experts here, they wouldn't have to worry about the Northern Jin Kingdom using any other tricks. Another 2 hours had passed, but there was still no sign of Li Lingtian. Could it be that Sir Lingtian is really not coming? He probably won't come at this time. No matter how heaven-defying he is, he wouldn't do such a thing. It doesn't matter whether he comes or not. Anyway, it won't affect the reputation of the Carefree Empire or his name. No one is willing to take the risk, and it's a thankless task. Let's wait a little longer. If Sir Ling Tian doesn't come, then we'll just go back. Whether they come or not, the Northern Jin Kingdom will lose face. As time passed, countless powerhouses began to discuss the matter. They were all suspecting that Li Lingtian would not come. Moreover, the carefree empire's powerhouses and army were relieved. If Li Lingtian did not come, they could still wipe out the North Jin Kingdom. Young master is here. At this moment, Yun Aotian looked at the sky with an excited expression. However, there was worry in his excited expression. Young master is here? The heaven-breaking pavilion is here? The experts from the Carefree Empire and the other experts asked in surprise. The calm sky was cloudless and there was no sign of a powerhouse. Naturally, they could not believe it when they did not even see Li Lingtian's shadow. That's right. Only the young master has this sword intent. It's impossible for this Xian Zhou to have such powerful sword qi. Yun Aotian said seriously. In the end, his expression was filled with confusion and shock. Immediately, all the experts felt the change in the aura in the air. The destructive sword qi continued to wreak havoc in the air. Furthermore, there were endless metal Dao intent and destruction sword intent in the air. Only Li Lingtian could possess such power. At the same time, the four middle-aged men on the North Soaring Peak turned solemn as they looked at the void. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Sisi. Kacha. In the sky was constantly being suppressed. The destructive sword intent wreaked havoc in the space. All the experts were shocked. The sword intent had arrived before the person had arrived. How powerful was this? With this sword intent, countless powerhouses could tell how terrifying Li Lingtian was. He was no match for a martial saint powerhouse. Puchi! The sound of blood spurting rang out. In the mountain range, all the experts within 2,000 miles of the North Soaring Peak were crushed by this terrifying sword intent. They were crushed by the destructive sword intent and could not help but spurt out blood. All of a sudden, the powerhouses kept retreating and left the North Soaring Peak far away. Looking at the North Soaring Peak from afar, the 10,000-meter tall peak was more than 2,000 meters higher than the other peaks. The North Soaring Peak could be seen from afar. Just as the sword intent appeared, a strange figure was floating in the air above the peak of the Northern Soaring Peak. The huge sword in his hand gave off a destructive sword light. The sword light wrapped around the sword, and the sword turned into a meter-long sword light that directly smashed down on the mountaintop. This sword was like a fairy from the heavens, as if it was going to destroy the entire North Soaring Peak. The space was continuously torn apart by the sword light. A huge skeleton was instantly pierced through the space by the sword light. Void destruction. A faint voice sounded. Although the voice was calm, it carried supreme dignity, like the oracle of a supreme true god. Rustle, rustle. Kacha, kacha. A black hole appeared in front of the sword light in the void above the mountain peak. The space was constantly being devoured and torn apart by the black hole. All the experts were stunned by what they saw. Was this still a martial saint expert? It was beyond the imagination of the experts of the divine martial continent. The destructive sword light tore through the void. All the experts on the mountain range were shocked at this moment. The mountain peak was torn apart by the endless sword intent. Boom! The black hole of the sword light finally struck the top of the mountain. Immediately, a shocking explosion sounded. Immediately, a destructive force raged. The North Soaring Peak was blasted apart by the sword, and it was blown away by more than 100 meters. Today is my son's birthday. I'll update a chapter first. I'll work hard to write and update it tonight. Chapter 830. The Might of Heaven and Earth. Lise reading Omicron N novel. Cool. Omicron M. The destructive sword chi and sword light turned into a halo and scattered in all directions. The halo spread for 1,000 miles and the area within 1,000 miles was instantly destroyed. Countless powerhouses were stunned. They had never expected such a situation to occur, nor did they expect Li Lingtian's sword to be so powerful. However, at this moment, they were all curious about the situation of the four martial god powerhouses on the mountaintop. Because of this power, even a martial god powerhouse might not be able to retreat unscathed. Before the person arrived, the sword arrived. The sword chi filled the sky, and the sword intent destroyed the heart. The might of a single sword swept across the world. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After a long time, 4 figures flew out from the mountain peak. The 4 figures had magical halos on them that protected the 4 of them. The 4 of them floated in the air and formed a magical formation. There was a faint connection between the formations. It was this formation that offset the destructive void destruction and escaped from the destructive sword light. Li Ling Tian. The blue-robed man looked at the sky, his face full of anger. His appearance was extremely terrifying. The aura around his body had already risen to the limit, as if he wanted to tear the people who had just attacked them apart. The white-robed young man was floating in the air. He looked down calmly as if he was examining the world. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, his handsome figure, and his otherworldly temperament. His entire person was like a long sword in his hand, standing proudly between heaven and earth. All the experts looked at the young man in white with envy and jealousy. Furthermore, countless powerhouses could not believe that the young man in white before them was the famous Li Ling Tian. He was the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent, the martial saint who had killed the martial god. In their opinion, the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent should be an old man. However, they did not expect him to be such a handsome young man. It would be possible to say that he was a young master of an aristocratic family, but not many people would believe that he was the #1 alchemy saint. However, at this moment, they had no choice but to believe it. Who else would dare to come here other than Li Ling Tian? There was no one in the divine martial continent who was as powerful as Li Ling Tian. Not bad, not bad. You're not a real fool. Li Ling Tian. It seems like you've been waiting for a long time. Please wake up. There's no need to thank me. It's my duty. The white-robed young man in the void was Li Ling Tian. Actually, they had already arrived outside the northern Ling mountain range. However, he didn't enter. He saw that it was already afternoon. It was time to end the battle. Moreover, this challenge was a technique. Time would exhaust the opponent's patience, and then he would use a destructive blow to ruthlessly crush the opponent's arrogance. The 6th layer of the true dragon body protection, the power of the winged dragon, was cultivated to the extreme. It could reach the point of instantly traveling 10,000 miles. Although he had not cultivated the power of the winged dragon to the extreme, he had cultivated it to the small success realm. It was an easy thing to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. Now that he was using his true essence, he could retain a little of his speed and movement technique. He could even travel 1,000 miles in an instant. As a result, when he arrived at the northern soaring peak and displayed his terrifying sword intent, the other powerhouses realized that his speed had completely exceeded the imagination of the 4 martial god powerhouses. Otherwise, they would not be in such a sorry state after being attacked by Li Ling Tian, as they did not even have the slightest reaction. The sound of blood spurting rang out, and the 4 martial god powerhouses could no longer hold it in anymore. Originally, they were caught off guard by the void destruction and were on the verge of being destroyed. If not for the martial gods' defense and reaction, the 4 martial gods would have already been destroyed. It was not easy for them to use a secret technique to avoid this calamity, but the price they paid was very high. This price almost made them collapse. However, Li Lingshan's words had enraged him. Li Ling Tian, don't you have any shame? He actually launched a sneak attack. Is this still the demeanor of the first alchemy saint? The gray-robed man's eyes revealed a vicious look, but he forced himself to admit it. However, after he said this, he regretted it. Saying such words in front of Li Ling Tian was just asking for a beating. They had no standing to begin with, and now they were even calling him shameless. They were simply sticking their faces out for him to slap. Ha 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 ha. Sneak attack? Are you kidding me? Could it be that you are low-level martial artists? As a martial god expert, you're waiting for me to attack, yet you still dare to say that I ambushed you. You still have the nerve to say such shameless words. I have to admire your shamelessness. Besides, I'm a martial saint. You 4 martial gods really have the cheek to challenge me. I'm the #1 alchemy saint of the divine martial continent. What does it have to do with you guys? Can my demeanor be used as a meal? When Li Ling Tian heard the man in gray's words, he could not hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. Then he started to counterattack. His voice was extremely loud and clear. It was like a dragon's roar that spread throughout the entire northern Ling mountain range. All the experts in the northern Ling mountain range heard it clearly. They had to endure it forcefully. After all, Li Lingtian had the ability and capability to laugh at the four martial gods. Although they wanted to laugh, mocking the war god in front of him was akin to courting death. However, they completely accepted Li Lingshan's words. It was already heaven-defying for a martial saint powerhouse to accept the challenge of four martial gods. It was not a sneak attack for a martial god powerhouse to be attacked by a martial saint. After reaching the martial arts grandmaster level, one would be a true martial artist. One would have to pay attention to the attacks of other experts at all times. There was no such thing as a sneak attack in this world. Moreover, martial artists' divine senses were powerful and could detect the opponent's aura from afar. This time, the four martial god powerhouses were attacked by Li Lingtian. It should have been impossible for Li Lingtian to enter the North Soaring Peak without being discovered by the other powerhouses, but Li Lingtian managed to do it. This terrifying scene shocked all the experts and they felt fear in their hearts. Just this movement technique and concealment technique alone were enough to make people feel afraid. To be by his side without knowing, this was the greatest threat to a martial artist. This time, if Li Lingtian had not unleashed his sword will, he would not have been discovered. Moreover, Li Lingshan's cultivation technique was extremely fast. When his aura appeared, his cultivation technique and divine power had already been unleashed. It could also be said that the aura was only discovered after the attack god art appeared. For a powerhouse, this was the most heaven-defying of all. The more powerful the divine power that a powerhouse cast, the more time it would take and the slower the casting speed. However, Li Lingtian could cast the heaven-defying divine power omnipresent in an instant. Damn it! The man in black listened to Li Lingshan's words. Even though he was calm, he could not hold it in anymore. Immediately, a shocking pressure erupted. The other three men also erupted with shocking pressure. In an instant, the entire northern Ling mountain range was suppressed by the destructive and terrifying pressure. The color of the sky changed. All the experts had ugly expressions on their faces. The pressure of a martial god was indeed powerful. It was not something that a martial saint could compare to. Furthermore, the pressure was unleashed by the combined might of four war gods. Now, it seemed that the four martial god powerhouses were going to join forces to exert their pressure and use their advantage as martial god powerhouses to crush Li Lingtian. Only then could they wash away the humiliation they had brought upon themselves. All of a sudden, although the powerhouses felt the pressure of destruction, they did not want to leave. They wanted to see how Li Lingtian could withstand the pressure of the four martial gods and how powerful he was. The army and powerhouses of the Carefree dynasty looked at Li Lingtian in admiration. At this moment, Li Lingtian was still floating in the air. The mighty pressure of a martial god powerhouse was right in front of him, causing his clothes to flutter in the wind. His entire person looked even more ethereal and dashing. 5 elements will of the great path. Heaven and earth balance. The might of heaven and earth. The pressure is unparalleled. To everyone's surprise, Li Lingtian had no intention of launching an attack. Instead, he began to compete with the martial god powerhouse in terms of pressure. At once, Li Lingshan's voice was like an oracle. His voice reached the ears of the Carefree dynasty's army and powerhouses, stirring their blood. So, phew! Between heaven and earth, the will of the great path erupted. The entire heaven and earth was filled with the will of the 5 elements. The will of the great path came from heaven and earth. With the 5 Tao wills in this world, the endless heaven and earth's might began to spin rapidly. With Li Lingtian at the center, the heaven and earth were filled with terrifying heaven and earth's might. At the center of the heaven and earth's might, Li Lingshan's entire body was integrated into the heaven and earth. It was as if Li Lingtian himself was part of the heaven and earth. This world was between heaven and earth. No matter how powerful the pressure was, it could not be stronger than the power of heaven and earth. Li Lingtian controlled the will of the 5 elements and possessed the 5 elements' sacred body. He controlled this world and was naturally powerful beyond compare. An unparalleled pressure was formed, and it immediately collided with the pressure of the 4 martial gods. Boom! 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 Instantly, the northern Ling mountain range was filled with explosions. The space was continuously torn apart, and the mountain range was continuously trembling and collapsing. The sun, moon, and stars became colorless at this moment, and the earth, mountains, and rivers continued to cry out in grief. All the experts were shocked because they were completely stunned when they saw the scene in the sky. Li Lingtian hovered in the air with a five-colored radiance around him. The radiance continued to bombard the four martial god powerhouses' pressure, and the opponent's pressure was being devoured and refined. As time passed, the five-colored radiance grew stronger as if it had received energy. In this situation, everyone understood that Li Lingshan's heaven and earth might had treated the opponent's pressure as a delicious meal. Amidst the five-colored radiance, Li Lingshan's white robe fluttered in the wind. His otherworldly temperament and graceful figure made him look like a true god who had descended from the 9 heavens. Countless powerhouses admired him. Li Lingtian finally understood what he was doing. He understood that since the other party had challenged him, he would take this opportunity to become famous and use his domineering methods to shake the world. He would use this reputation and power to unify the world. Those who were not convinced would only die and display shocking strength. This would have immeasurable benefits for future battles. Since the powerhouses of the Black Continent had noticed him, he would be shocked. Chapter 831. Domineering, 1. Lise reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M, the terrifying power of heaven and earth, was incomparably dazzling. He was like a true god. The four martial god powerhouses were completely stunned at this moment. The pressure of a martial god expert could completely suppress a martial saint expert. This was the power of a higher level, and also the power and advantage of a higher realm. This advantage was the iron law of martial arts in the divine martial continent. No one could break the iron law since ancient times. However, at this moment it was broken by someone. The pressure of a martial god realm expert was actually broken by a martial saint. Furthermore, this warrior sage powerhouse was using his aura to resist the martial god's aura. What was even more shocking was that Li Lingtian was fighting against the four of them alone. His aura was constantly devouring his opponent's aura. All of this was beyond their imagination and the iron law of the divine martial continent. The world will tremble under my feet and the Freedom King dynasty's feet from the moment you start. Li Lingshan's expression was calm, but there was a smile on his lips. He looked down at the powerhouses and they could not help but lower their noble heads. At this moment, all the experts were shocked, trembling, and feeling inferior. This was because these were the words of a martial saint powerhouse, an unremarkable martial saint powerhouse. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master, Young Master. Free and unfettered empire. Free and unfettered empire. However, the army and powerhouses from the carefree empire met Li Lingshan's gaze with excitement, admiration, and respect. The army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty, regardless of whether they were martial honors, martial emperors, martial saints, or martial gods, all of them had to have the heart of an expert. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of being a citizen and a powerhouse of the Xiaoyao dynasty. Li Lingtian was to be worshipped and respected, but not to be feared. This was because he would never betray the carefree dynasty or Li Lingtian. All of a sudden, the experts in the army of the Xiaoyao dynasty cheered. The northern Ling Mountains used to be the battlefield where the northern Jin kingdom bullied Li Lingtian. However, it had now become the place where the carefree dynasty displayed its might. In front of me, all of you are just a bunch of trash. With a wave of Li Lingshan's hand, the army and powerhouses from the carefree dynasty stopped talking abruptly. There was no more sound. At that moment, Li Lingtian looked at the four martial god powerhouses who were suppressing him with their pressure. A disdainful smile appeared on his face as he spoke in a cold voice. Puchi hush whoosh, the four martial god experts spat out a mouthful of blood, and their expressions were extremely ugly. In front of all the experts in the world, it was already embarrassing enough for him, a martial god expert, to join forces to deal with a martial saint. However, he was still ambushed by this martial saint expert. Now, he was even humiliated by this martial saint. How could he tolerate this? At the same time, seeing everything in the sky, all the experts were in an uproar. They all let out a cold breath. This was not a challenge at all. Instead, it was Li Lingtian who crushed four martial gods by himself. Elegant, domineering and domineering. One person's pressure was resisting the pressure of four martial gods, and he was still so unrestrained. He was able to speak confidently in front of a martial god expert and all the experts in the world. Calling the martial god a good-for-nothing in front of all the experts in the world. Wasn't this tone domineering? Die! Die! The white-robed man and the other three looked at each other, and at the same time, they unleashed the destructive might of the martial god. Regret filled his heart at the same time. He who humiliates others humiliates himself. He wanted to use the martial god's pressure to suppress Li Lingtian, but in the end, he was crushed by Li Lingtian. The four destructive auras were like raging waves as they came crashing down on Li Lingtian from all directions. Whoosh! Instantly, Li Lingtian's celestiality was constantly hit by the destructive pressure. The martial god was still the martial god, and the pressure was still the pressure. Even the celestiality was pushed back by the violent storm. After all, his cultivation was only at the second sky of the martial saint realm. Compared to the martial god realm, there was still a huge difference. The war god is indeed powerful. An elephant has the strength of an elephant, and an ant has the wisdom of an ant. However, no matter how powerful you are, you will always be showing off in front of me. Might of the heavens and earth, destroy! Li Lingtian was forced back by the destructive pressure, but he remained calm and composed. Like a butterfly dancing in the air, the powerhouses in the world were shocked and envious. Li Lingtian was the only person in the divine martial continent who could remain so calm and confident despite the combined might of the martial god. Sis, you've changed. In a corner of the northern Ling mountain range, a purple-clad young man and a black-clad woman were floating in the air, watching the battle in the sky. Behind them, there were a few martial saint super powerhouses. When the purple-clad young man looked at the black-robed woman, he saw her staring blankly at the figure in the air. She was practically dumbstruck. The purple-clad young man called out softly when he saw this. Get lost! When the black-clad woman saw the purple-clad young man laughing at her, her icy aura became even colder. She glared fiercely at the purple-clad young man. As expected of the person we need. In the palace of the Mystic Moon Empire, a crystal stone appeared behind the throne. Inside the crystal stone was everything that happened in the northern Ling Mountains. Everything that happened in the northern mountains was displayed in this crystal. It was a condensed version of the battle in the northern mountains. Looking at that carefree voice and that voice with endless charm, a sweet voice sounded. There was no emotion in the voice. Li Lingtian retreated rapidly with a calm expression on his face. As soon as he finished speaking, a mysterious power erupted from his body. This mysterious power turned into a halo and entered the light of the world. Instantly, the world trembled violently, and the entire mountain range seemed to be destroyed. At that moment, Li Lingtian made a mysterious gesture with his 10 fingers and extended his hands into the air. Boom! The firmament roared as it was probed. A mysterious heavenly might descended from the void and landed on Li Lingtian. Upon receiving this heavenly might, Li Lingtian's power of heaven and earth burst forth. The might of heaven and earth was like divine might as it withstood the destructive might of the four martial gods. Li Lingtian's body came to a steady stop amidst the storm as he rammed forward. The destructive might of heaven and earth blasted toward the four martial god powerhouses. At this moment, a dramatic scene happened. It was the four martial god powerhouses who used their destructive aura to crush Li Lingtian and force him to retreat. In the blink of an eye, it was Li Lingtian who had used his pressure to repel the four martial gods. He then pushed the four martial gods back with the might of heaven and earth. Just as Li Lingtian returned to his original position, his gaze turned ruthless as the pressure from his entire body burst forth. At this moment, the power of heaven and earth scattered like thousands of golden lights. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion reverberated throughout the entire northern Ling mountain range. The experts who were stunned on the northern Ling mountain range also woke up. His heart trembled, but at the same time, he was extremely excited. Pucci! The four martial god experts were struck by the pressure and spat out a mouthful of blood. The injury to the mind was thousands of times more serious than the injury to the body. Immediately, the white-robed man and the other three were covered in blood. Their faces were extremely pale and they looked extremely ugly. All the powerhouses were suspicious. Was this the four martial gods from the northern Jin kingdom challenging Li Lingtian? Or was it Li Lingtian's battle to make a name for himself? Or perhaps, Li Lingtian, a martial saint, could crush 4 martial gods? At the same time, the 4 martial god powerhouses were already in a daze. They had never expected things to turn out like this. Initially, the 4 of them had planned to join forces to kill Li Lingtian. However, the formation they had set up was broken by Li Lingtian the moment he came up, and they were even left in a sorry state. Now, he was humiliated by Li Lingtian and injured by the other party's pressure. The 4 of them had become Li Lingshan's stepping stones. This battlefield was created by Yub. However, this battlefield is controlled by me. I am your master. Li Lingtian hovered in the air and pointed at the 4 martial gods. His face was calm and relaxed, as if he was pointing out the country. Very good. Li Lingtian, you're indeed not bad. However, this matter is not over yet. We don't know who will win or lose until the end. The one who laughs in the end is the winner. The black shirt man calmed down after seeing Li Lingshan's condition. In the beginning, they had been angered, causing them to lose their composure. Now that he understood, he dared not act rashly. After calming down, he quickly calmed his injuries and stabilized his mind. He then thought of a way to defeat Li Lingtian with his advantage. However, they would not dare to use their advantage in terms of their realms even if they were beaten to death because their realms were nothing in front of Li Lingtian. That's right. The winner is the one who laughs last. It's just that you were born at the wrong time. You are the strong ones. There are some strong ones in the divine martial continent, but this era doesn't belong to you. Since this is a battle, let the battle begin now. The smile on Li Lingshan's face disappeared as well. However, his expression remained calm as he spoke indifferently with a grin. He looked at the 4 martial gods. The 4 martial gods were powerful, but they should not have encountered him. Moreover, the martial god was the martial god. If he was serious, he would not dare to underestimate him. However, after he said that, the 4 martial gods were furious. The experts on the mountain also staggered. The battle had already gone on for such a long time, and he had even played the martial god a few rounds. Yet, it had not even begun in Li Lingshan's heart. Was this not infuriating? Heavenly sword, earth sword, divine sword, human sword. The 4 martial god powerhouses were infuriated by Li Lingtian. However, they understood that Li Lingtian should not be provoked so easily. Since he had provoked them, he had to find a way to kill them. They didn't dare to hesitate any longer. With a flick of their divine senses, the 4 of them took out their intrinsic treasures. Instantly, the 4 supreme treasures appeared in the sky, and the world trembled in front of them. All the experts were shocked, and their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 832. 4 Symbols Killing Array. 1. Lise reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M. The 4 supreme treasures were all divine weapons. Immediately, the 4 martial god experts were filled with a destructive and violent aura. The 4 long swords also formed a slight connection at this time. A terrifying pressure emanated from the sky when the 4 swords appeared. Li Lingtian could feel the terrifying pressure in the face of this pressure. Whoosh, whoosh. The long swords continued to shuttle through the air, and the space was also cut open by the 4 long swords. Light and shadow crisscrossed, and sword chi raged. This world had almost become a world of swords. All the experts looked at the 4 long swords that were like destructive killing weapons in the air, attacking the minds of all the experts. Using a sword in front of me? Haha, you must be joking. Li Lingtian looked at the 4 swords of the heaven, earth, and deity in the sky with excitement. He had countless treasures, but he was determined to obtain these 4 swords. With these 4 swords, he could cultivate the heaven-destroying sword formation in the future. At the very least, it could replace the long sword needed for the heaven-destroying sword formation. Wasn't it a joke to use a sword in front of him? With the heavenly sword physique here, if someone still used a long sword, it was completely courting death. Since you know the way of the sword, then let's see how good your way of the sword is. When the man in gray heard Li Lingshan's words, he realized that in this world, only the strong were respected. There was no powerhouse who specialized in one cultivation method. Furthermore, a swordsman might not be cultivating sword principle but was only using this treasure. Then let's give it a try. I'll show you what the true sword Dao is. Heavenly sword body. Li Lingshan's expression turned serious. The four martial god powerhouses had already unleashed their four powerful divine weapons to their limits. The sky was filled with destructive sword aura and sword radiance. The true essence in his entire body circulated, and the heavenly sword body was activated. At this moment, a terrifying sword intent erupted. Sword intent was completely different from sword chi and sword light. It was a terrifying consciousness and will. The invisible sword intent was even more terrifying than the tangible sword chi and sword light. The heavenly sword physique was the most tyrannical physique in the world. It was indestructible and incomparably sharp. Those with a heavenly sword physique could cultivate the sword path with half the effort and have the chance to become the strongest sword cultivator. At the same time as the heavenly sword body was unleashed, Li Lingshan's divine consciousness stirred and 9 swords appeared before him. Of the 3 supreme saint weapons, the other 5 were divine weapons, and one of them was a supreme ancient divine weapon like the divine martial profound heaven sword. The 9 swords floated in front of Li Lingtian in a straight line as a terrifying pressure burst forth from them. The terrifying pressure directly collided with the treasures of the 4 martial god experts. The destructive pressure of the ancient divine weapon, the divine martial black heaven sword, and the pressure of the divine weapons and supreme saint weapons directly suppressed the other party's pressure. Divine martial profound heaven sword. Heavenly sword. Sky sword. Heavenly fault sword. What powerful divine artifacts and saint artifacts. A person wielding 9 superweapons? All the powerhouses, including the 4 martial gods, were shocked when they saw the long sword in front of Li Lingtian. These treasures were all from extremely powerful backgrounds. It was unexpected that they were all gathered in Li Lingshan's hands. Moreover, it seemed like Li Lingtian had to possess a powerful cultivation base and divine consciousness to wield 9 swords by himself. Most powerhouses would use a single treasure as it required a powerful cultivation base and divine consciousness to control it. However, Li Lingtian had brought out 9 swords. It was obvious that he was going to use all 9 swords. The long sword was a divine weapon and a holy weapon. It was not an ordinary treasure. Previously, when Li Lingtian used the myriad returning swords, it was an ordinary treasure that was completely dependent on the array. Heaven-destroying sword formation 9-9 Heaven-destroying sword formation. Li Lingtian ignored the other powerhouse's astonishment and quickly cast the heaven-destroying sword formation. Instantly, the 9 swords began to revolve around him, and the destructive sword intent in the sky began to revolve as well. It was then that the other powerhouses realized that Li Lingtian was using a sword formation. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Li Lingshan's expression was calm, but he was extremely serious. His eyes were fixed on the swords of the 4 powerhouses as a smile crept up his lips. Sacrifice. Immediately, Li Lingtian guided the 9 swords with one hand and they flew in a strange trajectory toward the 4 martial god powerhouses. Suddenly, sword aura surged in the sky. The 4 martial god powerhouses lost their grip on their long swords and clashed with Li Lingshan's 9 long swords. Li Lingtian stood steadily in the air as his divine consciousness and true essence controlled the long sword to fly. The 4 martial god experts also used their divine senses to control the long swords. For a moment, there was no movement from both sides. They watched the treasures in the air attack. All the experts were extremely shocked when they saw the scene in the sky. This was a true expert. He did not need to attack with his own body at all. Instead, he used his divine sense and will to fight. Chi 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 chi. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of divine artifacts colliding rang out non-stop. Energy flew in all directions, stirring the space. The world was dark, as if it had arrived at the end of the world. Sword control technique. Li Lingtian smiled faintly as he watched his heaven-destroying sword formation bombard the 4 martial gods. Although the 19 annihilating sword formation was powerful and had a terrifying divine weapon like the divine martial black heavenly sword, it was already commendable for a martial saint like him to be able to do this against 4 martial gods. However, it was impossible to defeat the other party or find an opportunity to use a big move. As he fought, his mind raced as he thought of a way to defeat his opponent. At this moment, the sword control technique was unleashed. Instantly, 9 swords streaked across the sky like meteors, continuously attacking the 4 martial god powerhouses. Out of the 9 swords, 4 divine weapons blocked the martial god's 4 swords of heaven, earth, and deity. The other 5 swords bombarded the martial god, leaving him no chance to attack. He could only unleash his powerful attacks to block Li Lingshan's attack. Rumble! Rumble! Explosions continued, and the martial god expert revealed a bitter smile. The sword technique that he had displayed was actually broken by the other party, and he was even at a disadvantage. The 4 swords of heaven, earth, and deity were already entangled. Left with no choice, they could only use other attacks to resist Li Lingshan's sword control technique. However, every strike of the divine martial black heavenly sword carried a destructive sword light. Even a martial god expert would be covered in blood. 4 symbols sky screen formation. The 4 martial god powerhouses kept retreating and were at a disadvantage as they were suppressed by Li Lingshan's heaven-destroying sword formation. If this continued, they would definitely be killed by Li Lingshan's sword formation. They had never expected that 4 martial god realm experts would actually be suppressed by a martial saint realm expert. This had already exceeded their imagination. Seeing this, the white-robed man roared loudly. A golden attack blocked the sword light of the divine martial black heavenly sword from afar. Immediately, the 4 of them joined forces to display a terrifying defense. After this defense appeared, the 5 swords found it difficult to attack. Retract! Li Lingtian did not dare to be careless when he saw that his opponent was injured and had found an opportunity to unleash his ultimate move. With a thought of his divine sense, the 9 swords were retracted. Immediately, the swords turned into flowing lights and disappeared. When they reappeared, they had already returned to his dantian. In the sky, it was temporarily quiet. The 4 martial god experts joined forces to cast the 4-symbol sky screen array. Rays of light began to spin, and the light rushed into the 9 heavens, shaking them. The 4 swords of heaven, earth, and deity also floated in front of him, no longer moving. In the northern Ling mountain range, hundreds of thousands of powerhouses were all shocked. Li Lingtian, a martial saint, had forced the 4 martial gods to join forces to cast the array formation. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the 4 of them were when they were able to cast the array formation in front of a genius like Li Lingtian. It was indeed sad to be forced to this extent. However, when they saw the destruction of the 4-symbol sky screen formation, they could not help but tremble. Roar! 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 Rumble! In an instant, the sky began to rumble. In the void, there was already a violent roar, as if a demon beast had appeared. Not good. It's not the 4-symbol sky screen formation, it's the 4 symbols murder formation. Despicable. The martial god experts joined hands to cast the 4 symbols slaughter array. Despicable to the extreme. A martial god realm expert actually used such a method to deal with a martial saint realm expert. Shameful. They actually used the 4 rapscallions to deal with humans. Countless experts looked at the roar in the air and the terrifying aura descending from the sky. The expressions of many experts changed drastically as they thought of something terrifying. The 4 symbols slaughter array was an array formed by the spells of the 4 great beasts to summon ancient beasts. Li Lingshan's heart trembled as he watched the roar in the sky and felt the destructive aura. Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! At this moment, 4 martial god experts soared into the sky and flew into the void. In the end, the 4 of them stood steadily in the air. 4 mysterious and ferocious auras descended from the air and entered the bodies of the 4 martial gods. Instantly, the 4 martial god experts began to transform rapidly. In less than a moment, the 4 martial god experts had transformed into mysterious and terrifying ferocious beasts. The huge ferocious beasts were at least 100 meters in size. Roar! With a roar, 4 huge beasts descended. The terrifying ferocious beast was extremely ugly and ferocious. This appearance shocked and frightened the experts on the mountain range. Just a glance was enough to make him feel afraid. If he fought with 4 ferocious beasts, he would definitely be courting death. All of a sudden, all the powerhouses turned to look at Li Lingtian. He's just a clown. To the world's powerhouse's surprise, Li Lingtian had spoken to the 4 pharaohs in such a casual manner that they were nothing more than clowns. Instantly, all the experts were shocked. Disbelief was written all over his face. Although Li Lingshan's strength was terrifying, None of them were optimistic about Li Lingtian when faced with the beasts summoned by the four martial gods. It was as if they were watching Li Lingtian being tortured to death by the four beasts. However, all the experts caught what happened next, and their eyeballs almost fell out. Chapter 833. Yinglong's body lease reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M. Li Lingshan's true essence vanished in an instant. He had become an ordinary person without any true essence. Under such circumstances, he actually did not have any true essence. He would definitely be torn apart by the spatial force. However, no one saw Li Lingtian being torn apart by the force. On the contrary, they saw Li Lingshan's aura rapidly changing. Bang! In the air, a destructive demonic qi burst out from the space centered around Li Lingtian. The shocking demonic qi contained a destructive demonic force. With the appearance of the demonic force, Li Lingshan's aura soared. However, the aura at this time was no longer the aura of a human, but a kind of demonic power that could destroy the world. An explosive demonic aura soared into the sky. If you don't seek death, you won't die. You're the one seeking death. The sixth layer of the true dragon body protection, the power of the Yinglong. Li Lingtian stared at the four ferocious beasts in the air with a cruel expression on his face. As soon as he finished speaking, he flew into the void and disappeared, turning into a 1,000-meter-long Yinglong. The air was constantly torn apart, and the oppressive aura of destruction seemed to want to crush this world. The flying rain dragon appeared in the air. It was a 1,000-meter-long flying rain dragon with a 100-meter-long wing. With a flap, the world changed color. Yinglong. It's actually Yinglong. Transform into a Yinglong. No, this isn't an incarnation. It's just that after cultivating the cultivation technique to the extreme, one can reach such a heaven-defying level. What terrifying power! All the powerhouses in the Bailing mountain range were stunned when they saw Li Lingtian transform into a Yinglong. They did not expect Li Lingtian to have cultivated his demonic cultivator to such a level. Such power was enough to make any powerhouse tremble. At this moment, the four ferocious beasts were like little caterpillars in front of the powerful Yinglong. Roar! Roar! Yinglong roared. His voice tore through space and the entire northern Ling mountain range started to shake. Following that, the Yinglong's huge claw clawed at one of the ferocious beasts. Immediately, a hole was torn in the space in front of it. The claw did not have time or space to scratch the ferocious beast's body. Bang! With a muffled sound, the 100-meter-long ferocious beast was sent flying by the huge claw like a little chick. In front of me, all of you are just little caterpillars. So what if I'm a martial god? My true dragon body barrier has already reached the martial god realm. The winged dragon uttered a human voice. Li Lingtian had transformed into the winged dragon, so he naturally had his own consciousness and everything. After saying that, its huge tail smashed down like a natural moat. Boom! With a loud explosion, one of the beasts was hit hard. Its body was knocked down and its huge tail swept across the North Soaring Peak. Instantly, the North Soaring Peak was broken in half. A destructive force erupted, and dust soared into the sky. Roar! 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 In the blink of an eye, the two fierce beasts were sent flying by the Yinglong, and their shadows were nowhere to be seen. However, the other two ferocious beasts roared and turned into light shadows as they attacked Yinglong. Bang! Bang! With two muffled sounds, the ferocious beast's terrifying power ruthlessly bombarded the Yinglong's body. The Yinglong's body only swayed slightly. Its huge eyes looked at the two beasts and its huge claws slapped down fiercely. Roar! Roar! Two screams came from the two beasts. When the screams fell, the two beasts had already been ruthlessly beaten into the mountain range and directly smashed into the soil. Die! Yinglong burst out with a shocking voice that was like thunder. The 1,000-meter-long body crashed down the mountain range. Instantly, the entire mountain range began to tremble. Countless mountains began to collapse. Countless experts flew up to avoid the destruction of the mountain range. However, as soon as they flew up, they were bombarded by the destructive demonic qi in the air. Immediately, the experts in the air fell like rain. Boom! Boom! Boom boom boom! A series of explosions sounded in the mountain range. The mountain range collapsed. The Yinglong was like a destructive machine in the mountain range. Wherever it passed, there was destruction and death. Right at this moment, the 4 martial god incarnations had already been beaten to the point where they disappeared, returning the 4 of them to their original forms. 4 voices were thrown into the void. Then, the 1,000-meter-long Yinglong flapped its huge wings and its huge body flew away like a feather. The speed of his body tore through the void. Yinglong's control over space had reached an extreme. He could reach a speed of 1,000 miles in an instant and could easily tear through the void. Tear! Tear! Li Lingshan's voice rang out as his gigantic claws tore through the air. The 4 martial gods no longer looked like martial gods but beggars. However, every time Li Lingtian tore it apart, a crack would appear in the void and the destructive gale would destroy them. Heavenly Flower Manifestation. Avatar Return. At this moment, the 4 martial god experts shouted at the same time. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying and mysterious aura appeared in the air. This aura made countless experts curious and puzzled. The mountain range was calm, but the destructive tear in the sky continued, and the destructive wind raged. At this moment, the 4 martial god experts started to spin rapidly. They were not afraid of the destructive astral winds at all. Essence-soul fusion. An ethereal voice sounded. A mysterious light appeared in the void. There was a mysterious bead in this light. The mysterious bead instantly disappeared and entered the 4 martial gods. After the bead appeared, the 4 martial gods turned into light and everything disappeared. However, the moment the 4 martial gods disappeared, a man in embroidered clothes appeared. This man's appearance was exactly the same as the 4 martial gods from before. They were completely carved out of the same mold. So, these 4 fellows are just your clones. Since I have appeared, you can disappear forever today. The huge Yinglong floated in the air and looked at the changes below. After the man in embroidered clothes appeared, it opened its mouth and said loudly. At this moment, the experts on the mountain range also woke up and understood what was going on. As soon as the Yinglong's voice sounded, its huge tail tore through the air. Wherever the tail passed, space was torn apart. Second Firmament War God. Martial God Space Vortex / The embroidered-robed man's expression was extremely ugly when he saw the Yinglong's huge tail strike down. He circulated all the true essence in his body to the limit and slashed in the air with one hand. A powerful vortex space / blasted towards the tail. In the sky, a light shadow and a huge tail collided in the blink of an eye. Boom! With a loud explosion, the huge tail bounced up, and the light shadow of the whirlwind / disappeared. However, at this moment, the huge Yinglong disappeared. When it reappeared, its huge claws had already arrived in front of the man in embroidered clothes. Its claws ruthlessly clawed at the man. Boom! Boom! For a moment, the huge Yinglong and the embroidered-robed man kept attacking each other in the air. Countless powerhouses watched the battle in the sky and their hearts trembled. The battle started with the 4 martial gods challenging Li Lingtian, but it had now turned into a second firmament martial god versus Yinglong Puff. In the air, 2 figures flashed. After an unknown period of time, a tiny figure was thrown out. 2 mouthfuls of blood spurted out as Yinglong's figure vanished. When he reappeared, Yinglong had transformed into Li Lingshan's original form with traces of blood at the corner of Li Lingshan's mouth. All the powerhouses were puzzled when they saw Li Lingtian transform into his true form. This was because Li Lingtian had mentioned that he had already cultivated the true dragon body barrier to the martial god realm. But now he clearly had the upper hand, but he had become the main body. None of the powerhouses could understand what was going on, but Li Lingtian knew what was going on. The true dragon body barrier was powerful, and it had already reached the power of a martial god. However, when faced with an abnormal powerhouse like the embroidered-robed man, who was even at the second firmament of the martial god realm, he did not have the slightest advantage. After a huge battle, he had consumed too much energy and could not hold on at all. He could only transform into his true body. Whoosh! By the time Li Lingtian had transformed into his true form, the man in embroidered robes had already returned. He stood before Li Lingtian with a vicious expression on his face. Let's see what else you can do now. The embroidered-robed man said viciously as his gaze swept across the experts of the northern Ling mountain range. His gaze was like that of a devil, causing countless experts to tremble in fear. Trash. Li Lingshan's eyes were cold as well. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the divine martial Black Heaven sword appeared in his hand. After the divine martial Black Heaven sword appeared, Li Lingtian looked at the man in embroidered clothes with a serious expression as a faint smile appeared on his face. At the same time, the sword intent in his body erupted. The terrifying destructive aura in his body quickly connected with the divine martial Black Heavenly sword. Divine martial profound heaven sword. The sword will destroy the world. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the divine martial Black Heaven sword. The corners of his mouth curled up as a faint voice sounded. Although the voice was calm, it was like a divine decree that spread throughout the entire northern Ling mountain range. Immediately, a destructive cyclone burst forth from the divine martial profound heaven sword. This destructive cyclone was the same one that was in the divine aura mountains. After Li Lingtian refined it, it had turned into a destructive force, the divine qi. Heaven, earth, gods, merge. The man in embroidered clothes looked at the divine martial Black Heaven sword in Li Lingshan's hand and the terrifying destructive cyclone. His heart began to tremble. He grabbed at the air with one hand, and the 4 divine artifacts appeared in his hand. He chanted a chant and the 4 divine artifacts quickly merged together. The huge sword was hurled at Li Lingtian with a huge sword ray that was 100 meters long. The sword radiance tore through the void and arrived above Li Lingtian as if it disregarded the distance between them. Finally it slashed down viciously. Instantly, the void was destroyed, and the sky and earth changed color. The void shattered inch by inch like a broken mirror, looking extremely terrifying. Chapter 834. The End, 1. Lise reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M Kocha. The destructive sword light of the heaven and earth deity slashed down fiercely, causing the space to shatter. However, in the eyes of all the experts, a huge gray object strangely appeared in the air. This gray object was 200 meters long, 100 meters wide, and 2 meters thick. The entire gray object gave off a heavy feeling. It was filled with a destructive icy cold aura, like a meteorite from outer space. That's right, this was the meteorite from outer space freezing sky altar. The sword light of the heaven and earth deity struck the freezing sky altar fiercely, causing the space to tremble. The huge freezing sky god altar only trembled slightly in front of the destructive sword light, and the sword light disappeared. The thick freezing sky god altar was not something that a mere sword beam could shake when faced with the sword beam's bombardment. Naturally, it was not destroyed by the sword beam now. This situation stunned all the experts. In their minds, Li Lingtian would definitely use the divine martial profound heaven sword to strike out fiercely to negate the opponent's sword radiance. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to use the freezing sky altar at this moment to neutralize the sword radiance. Die! Just as the sword beam was blocked by the freezing sky altar, Li Lingshan's figure shot up and left the protection of the freezing sky altar. He then swung the divine martial profound heaven sword down viciously. Immediately, a destructive sword light slashed towards the man in embroidered clothes with sword intent. The aura of destruction was divine energy. The cyclone kept shining in the sword light. In an instant, the sword light ruthlessly slashed at the man in embroidered clothes. Rip! Divine QJ was the nemesis of martial god experts, and the power of the divine martial profound heaven sword was even more tyrannical. With a single sword strike, it tore through the void. Moreover, the embroidered robed man did not have the slightest reaction after this sword was executed. The sword ray struck the man in embroidered clothes, emitting a tearing sound. His defense was directly destroyed. Immediately, the sword light entered his body, and the destructive sword light and sword intent wreaked havoc on the man's true essence and meridians. His meridians and true essence were destroyed by the sword intent, and the embroidered robed man let out waves of miserable screams. For a moment, the embroidered robed man was no longer a second sky martial god expert, but a dying person, constantly rolling in the air. Boom! With an explosive sound, the sword essence and sword light in the man's body burst out, and his entire body disappeared. The air was filled with a terrifying sword intent. Li Lingtian casually swung the divine martial profound heaven sword in his hand, and a shocking sword radiance was hurled toward the north soaring peak. The earth shook and the mountains collapsed. The northern soaring peak was razed to the ground in the blink of an eye in the eyes of countless experts. Everything within 1,000 miles had turned into nothingness. This place had already become an empty land where not a single blade of grass grew. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as he pointed the divine martial Black Heaven's sword at the void. He looked at the hundreds of thousands of powerhouses in the Biling mountain range. If there are still those who are not convinced, you can come up. I'll deal with them together. He looked at the hundreds of thousands of experts and said loudly. After saying that, a terrifying aura erupted. The pressure of the might of heaven and earth spread out, enveloping the entire mountain range under the pressure. However, none of the powerhouses had the intention to seek death. After all, even the 4 martial god powerhouses had been beaten up by Li Lingtian. In the end, they had even reverted back to their original forms and were killed. The second firmament martial god with 4 avatars was destroyed by Li Lingshan's sword. There was no powerhouse who dared to challenge Li Lingtian. For a moment, the entire mountain range fell silent in fear of being targeted by Li Lingtian. Since no one has come up, it's best not to go against me in the future. Otherwise, I'll kill you without mercy. Seeing that no one replied, he used his divine sense and put away his treasures. He grabbed with one hand and put away the brocade-robed man's storage bag, as well as the 4 swords. His gaze swept across the hundreds of thousands of experts. Then, he took a step forward in a carefree manner. However, after this step, he had already disappeared from the world. There was no longer any trace of Li Lingshan's aura in the air. Even the spatial fluctuation did not appear. All the powerhouses were shocked when they saw this. This movement technique was simply amazing. This movement technique was even more powerful than teleportation because teleportation could produce aura and spatial fluctuations. However, there was no aura or spatial fluctuation when Li Lingtian left and arrived. After Li Lingtian's departure, the army and powerhouses from the Carefree dynasty burst into a loud cheer. All the experts in the world were shocked at this moment. They finally witnessed Li Lingshan's power and terror. He was decisive in killing, powerful and calm. In less than half an hour, all the powerhouses in the northern Ling mountain range had left. However, the entire Mystic Moon Empire and the Mystic Continent were shocked. This time, even the top powerhouses of the Xian continent could feel Li Lingshan's strength and dominance. His destructive power was beyond the imagination of a martial saint powerhouse. Even a martial god powerhouse was not as domineering. The army of the Carefree dynasty entered the northern Jin kingdom. The destructive blow caused the northern Jin kingdom to completely collapse in just one day. Moreover, the war in the entire Xian continent was getting more intense. Li Lingshan's reputation was at its peak. The Carefree dynasty had swept through the 12 kingdoms under the Mystic Moon Empire and was extremely powerful. The 90 million soldiers were heading towards the Mystic Moon Empire. The war between the Mystic Moon Empire and the Carefree Empire was inevitable. Nothing could stop the battle between these 2 giants. However, Li Lingtian, the key figure of the Carefree dynasty, had disappeared from the eyes of the powerhouses in the world. This time, everyone understood that Li Lingtian was uninjured and had truly defeated the martial god powerhouse. It was so domineering, so relaxed, so powerful, and so unparalleled. Li Lingtian had become the idol of the powerhouses of the Xian continent, and was also the benchmark of the Xian continent powerhouses. Some disciples who did not possess heaven-defying talent had also regarded Li Lingtian as a benchmark. It was rumored that Li Lingtian used to be an ordinary disciple who was bullied and beaten before rising against the heavens. From then on, no one in the divine martial continent would look down on any low-level disciple anymore. This was because he might become a terrifying Li Lingtian in a decade's time. Currently, there was no one in Xianzhou who could suppress Li Lingtian. The martial god powerhouses were the strongest in the Black Continent. However, 10 of them were killed by Li Lingtian within a year, including the Venerable One's avatar. The focus of the Black Continent had returned to the War God after leaving the North Firmament Peak. After returning to the War God, he adjusted his breathing for a while. His injuries from the tremors had also completely recovered. After his true dragon body barrier reached the 6th layer, the recovery of his Bodis injuries had also reached an abnormal level. It was almost the same as some heaven-defying self-healing bodies. I didn't expect that one of the 4 divine swords was actually forged from purple gold and the thunderclap divine wood. On the war god, Li Lingtian sat on a plank with 4 divine swords in his hands. The 4 divine swords were the heavenly sword, the earth sword, the divine sword, and the human sword. Li Lingtian studied the 4 divine swords carefully. They were all divine artifacts, but they were much more powerful than the ones he had refined. The main reason was that these 4 divine swords were made of purple gold and the thunderclap divine wood. A divine artifact forged from 2 materials, purple gold belonging to the sky and thunderbolt divine wood belonging to the wood. Its power is incomparably powerful. During this period of time, he had always wanted to forge his own divine weapon, and it was a divine weapon to forge the heaven-destroying sword formation. He wanted to forge a set of powerful divine weapons that were suitable for the heaven-destroying sword formation. However, the materials were extremely difficult to find. Even with the strength of the carefree empire, they could only find a portion of the materials. The 9 materials he needed were purple gold, divine thunder wood, gung gold, sun essence crystal, rainbow heaven mending stone, icy purple jade, meteorite, clear sky water, and divine dragon blood essence. The more materials he had, the better. However, he only had a portion of them now, so he could not forge the 9 heavenly swords at all. He had never thought that the 4 divine swords he had obtained this time would actually be ready-made. As long as he reforged the 4 divine swords, he would be able to use them and meet the requirements of the divine swords. The heavenly sword that he forged was completely different from the heavenly sword. The heavenly sword was a supreme saint weapon and was a complete set with the Tianyu sword. However, what he wanted to forge was the heaven sword of the heaven-destroying sword formation. There was no connection between the two. You already have quite a number of divine artifacts in your hands. You can completely refine these divine artifacts again, and extract the materials inside to forge the heavenly swords. This way, you can forge 9 heavenly swords in a short period of time. Right now, half of the Mystic Moon Empire is in our hands. We can use our strength to gather materials and forge the heavenly sword. Naturally, Huangfu Yuyan knew that Li Lingtian wanted to forge a heavenly sword. However, the materials were not in place at the moment. Even if he managed to forge a few heavenly swords, it would be useless. This was because the heaven-destroying sword formation had to use the heaven swords that were refined together. This way there would be a strong connection between them and they would complement each other. Yes, after I've settled these matters, I'll ask General Long to find these materials and find someone who has the earth core fire to refine the heavenly sword. Li Lingtian nodded. He had already made arrangements in his heart. Now that the war was imminent, he had to take down the Mystic Moon Empire. Once the Mystic Moon Empire was stabilized, he would think of a way to forge the heavenly sword. That's right. Leave this matter to us sisters. You just focus on your cultivation. Moreover, the Xiaoyao Empire's army has already attacked the Mystic Moon Empire. It seems like we have to go to the Mystic Moon Empire's Mystic Moon Sacred City. When that time comes, we will unify the Mystic Moon Empire and form 3 kingdoms. Then, we won't have to fear the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire. At that time, we will have a foothold in the Black Continent. Tang Qingyue said with a smile. Li Lingtian took the box after she finished speaking. After we gain a foothold in the Black Continent, we slowly swallow the Black Continent and unify it. By then, we'll form a 3-legged confrontation with the Green Continent and the Azure Continent, with Tianhe Holy City as the center. We'll have enough qualifications to dominate the world and obtain more abundant resources for cultivation. Li Lingshan's eyes gleamed. He had already made up his mind to unify the entire Xianzhou when he arrived in Xianzhou. By then, the Azure Continent, the Qingzhou Continent, and the Mystic Continent would form a 3-pronged confrontation with the Celestial River Sacred City as the center. In this way, the entire Divine Martial Continent would have a place. Chapter 835. Mystic Moon Holy City Lease reading Omicron N Novel Cool. Omicron M. Li Lingtian spent the rest of his time cultivating and comprehending the cultivation method and divine power. Refining medicinal pills and raising his cultivation, time passed very quickly. As the days passed, Li Lingshan's cultivation base improved rapidly, and he had reached the peak of the second heaven martial saint realm. Tang Qingyue and the rest had already reached the fifth heaven martial emperor realm. With their cultivation, they were already able to help Li Lingtian. If they were to stand alone, they would not be of much help. Instead, they would only be a burden. However, if the 5 of them were to join forces, their might would be so great that even the martial god would not dare to resist them easily. Coupled with Shenyuan Yinglong's strength, the 6 of them had become Li Lingshan's greatest helpers. During this period of time, the Xiaoyao dynasty was also invincible. Wherever he went, he was met with submission. After all, the carefree dynasty was too powerful and Li Lingshan's reputation was like a thunderclap ringing in their ears. The Mystic Moon Empire didn't even have the slightest resistance. This situation puzzled the experts and army of the carefree dynasty, as well as the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire. When the news reached Li Lingtian and the others, they were puzzled. 2 million troops are approaching the Mystic Moon Holy City, and the Mystic Moon Empire isn't resisting at all. It's indeed strange. Why don't we head to the Mystic Moon Sacred City first? Shun Mei gave Li Lingtian a suggestion after she relayed the news to him. It is indeed strange. The Mystic Moon Empire isn't a kingdom, and its power is terrifying. No matter how strong the free and unfettered empire is, we're still no match for the Mystic Moon Empire. Furthermore, there are countless martial god experts in the Mystic Moon Empire. These martial god experts naturally won't fear me. Li Lingtian was puzzled as well. He found the whole thing odd. However, things had already reached this point, so it was not good to retreat. Whether it's the strength of our army or the strength of our experts, our Xiaoyao Empire can't compare to the Mystic Moon Empire. Moreover, the Mystic Moon Empire hasn't made any moves, so it's obvious that they've been preserving their strength. The only person who can defeat the Mystic Moon Empire is you. A powerful warrior can decide the outcome of a battle. Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian and spoke in a serious tone. During this period of time, although the Xiaoyao dynasty army and experts were extremely excited, they were tired of the battle. They all hoped to end the war as soon as possible. Only after the war was over could they cultivate seriously. Moreover, their goal was to unify the Black Continent and obtain more resources and backers. They would use their own forces to become their backers. Send the order that the war god will head to the Mystic Moon Sacred City. This matter has to be resolved. Li Lingtian said calmly as he gestured for Shun Mei to pass on the order. Thinking about how he would see the woman in white after conquering the Mystic Moon Empire, he felt excited because she had news of Yun Xiaoyao. Although the woman in white didn't say it clearly, it was clear enough. After a few years, this day had finally arrived. The Xiaoyao Empire army had a total of 100 million soldiers, and all of them had arrived at the Mystic Moon Sacred City. The world was shaken. Although this was already expected, an empire being surrounded by soldiers still shook the world. Compared to Xiaoyao Sacred City, Xinyue Sacred City was many times stronger. Even if the free and unfettered empire's army was at the city gates, the Mystic Moon Sacred City was still extremely calm, as if nothing had happened. The war in the Xiaoyao dynasty has lasted for many years, and this day has finally arrived. Martial Saint Ming Luo looked at the Mystic Moon Sacred City thousands of miles away. She had a faint smile on her face, but there was a trace of regret in her eyes. Because in the past few years, the war had already worn away his blood. At the same time, he was looking forward to this day because he knew that he could only let go of everything after the battle ended. When the time came, he would cultivate with Li Lingtian. Even though he was now in charge of the 3 armies and looked glorious on the surface, he had always been looking forward to being Li Lingshan's bodyguard. This day has finally arrived. After the war in the Mystic Moon Empire, I believe the end of the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire won't be far. After the war in the Mystic Continent is resolved, we can relax. Martial Saint Yunhao had the same expression as Martial Saint Ming Luo. They were in the same mood. After a few years, the Xiaoyao dynasty had swept the world and finally arrived in front of the Mystic Moon Empire. This was the final battle against the empire. As long as Li Lingtian arrived, he would be able to wipe out the Mystic Moon Empire. Let's wait for the young master to arrive. He was the most annoyed by the commander. His personality was to kill, But after he became the commander, he couldn't kill willfully. He had to prioritize the overall situation. Now, there was hope in front of him. As long as the battle was over, he could give up this position and cultivate in peace. The news has already been sent to the young master. I believe the young master will arrive soon. Marshal Saint Ming Luo looked into the distance in anticipation of Li Lingshan's appearance. Rumble. A moment later, a rumbling sound could be heard in the sky. This sound was extremely familiar. It was the sound of the war god. In the sky, a huge silver monster appeared in the eyes of all the experts. In the blink of an eye, the silver monster had arrived above the carefree dynasty's army. Li Lingtian stood on the massive war god with a calm expression on his face. There was not the slightest change in his emotions. Swish, swish. Instantly, the 100 million soldiers of the Xiaoyao dynasty knelt down in unison. The area within 1,000 miles was filled with darkness. A terrifying aura filled the air, but at this moment, all the troops and experts knelt down. Young Master D. Boiling voices of worship resounded throughout the world. At this moment, all the armies and experts were extremely respectful. Roar! 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 Li Lingtian looked at the army of billions of soldiers with a calm expression, but he was extremely excited. With a wave of his hand, the entire army stood up and roared. Their morale instantly shook the sky, and their voices were as deafening as thunder. Li Lingtian of the Freedom Dynasty is here. The Mystic Moon Empire is about to become history. Those who follow will prosper and those who rebel will perish. Looking at the distant Mystic Moon Holy City, Li Lingshan's heart was in turmoil. He was extremely happy with the city. It would be a blessing to cultivate here. More importantly, he would be able to meet the woman in white and learn about Xiaoyao. Li Lingtian, you're a citizen of a kingdom under the Mystic Moon Empire. Disrespecting the Mystic Moon Empire now is equivalent to offending your superiors. If you can relax now, the Mystic Moon Empire can grant your Xiaoyao dynasty the title of an upper-class kingdom. Otherwise, you will be punished by the Mystic Moon Empire. On top of the city walls of the Holy Moon City, there were countless martial saints standing on top of it. Furthermore, there were 10 martial god experts in the lead. The 10 martial god powerhouses looked down on Li Lingtian like statues. The person who spoke was only a 9th heavenly layer martial saint, but he had already reached the peak of the 9th heavenly layer martial saint, almost reaching the realm of the pseudo-martial god. Lang Xiaotian, the great elder of the Mystic Moon Empire, was also one of the most powerful figures in the entire empire. However, he felt pressured by the attack of the Carefree dynasty. After all, Li Lingshan's strength was too terrifying. He had killed several martial god powerhouses with his second heaven martial saint realm cultivation. However, now that the Mystic Moon Empire's defenses were strong, they had a certain degree of confidence in their defense. Even if Li Lingtian wanted to break through this defense, it would not be that easy. Alright, I'll destroy your city first. Li Lingtian took a glance at Lang Xiaotian with a vicious look in his eyes. As he spoke, he waved his hand and the army quickly advanced, arriving in front of the city and starting the siege. Rumble! Rumble! Kacha kacha! Boom! 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 In an instant, the 10,000-strong army bombarded the defensive formation of the Mystic Moon Sacred City. The army seemed to be in disorder, but when they attacked, they were orderly and without any disorder. Moreover, every attack was carried out by tens of thousands of experts. Tens of thousands of soldiers and experts joined forces to attack. The power was earth-shattering, but against such an attack, the Mystic Moon Sacred City did not tremble at all. Even the defensive formation did not seem to tremble at all. Array Dao Master. Seeing that the destructive attack could not cause any damage to the array, Li Lingtian understood how powerful the array was. As a super holy array master, he could naturally tell how powerful the array was. However, he just had to attack the array. This commotion puzzled all the troops and experts. With a wave of his hand, hundreds of array masters appeared. With Lu Haotian in the lead, all the array masters cast spell seals one after another. Instantly, a destructive pillar of light ruthlessly bombarded the array formation. Boom! Another explosion sounded as the shocking pillar of light bombarded the array. However, The array formation was not broken as expected. Instead, it only trembled slightly. The array masters of the Carefree Empire were extremely powerful. This was something that all the experts and armies in the world knew. However, the attacks they were using now could not even shake the defenses of the Mystic Moon Sacred City. Attack! The cultivators and armies of the Mystic Moon Sacred City laughed in excitement when they saw that the array formation of the Carefree Empire posed no threat to the array formation. Instantly, Lang Xiaotian waved the flag in his hand, and countless armies unleashed devastating attacks. The attacks directly penetrated the defensive array formation and bombarded the Carefree Empire's army. Boom! 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 Between the heavens and the earth, the Mystic Moon Sacred City unleashed destructive attacks. The destructive attacks covered the sky and covered the earth as they descended towards the Carefree Empire. In an instant, the Carefree Empire's army fell continuously. The army quickly used their defensive shields, and the array masters also began to defend themselves. This was the first time such a thing had happened to the Xiaoyao dynasty army. In the past, they had always attacked the other side, but they had never expected that this time, the other side would attack them. In the past, he could easily break through the city's defense, but now he was blocked outside the city. War God, cover me. Li Lingtian glanced at Marshal Saint Ming Luo and gestured for her to command the battle. Marshal Saint Ming Luo shouted loudly. Suddenly, the war god's attacks continued to shoot out. The war god also flew forward, using the war god to block the opponent's attacks. Chapter 836. Saint Emperor Bei Ming Xueqi's reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicronum rumble. Rumble. The sky changed color and the earth shook. Outside the Mystic Moon Sacred City, it was as if the end of the world had arrived. The 10,000-strong army of the Carefree Empire was constantly being attacked by the Mystic Moon Sacred City. The power of the Mystic Moon Sacred City had completely exceeded the imagination of the Carefree Empire. The destructive attacks had covered almost half of the Carefree Empire's army. Within this range, the army had no way of retreating at all. For a moment, the Xiaoyao dynasty was under the attack of destruction. Even if the war god joined in, it wouldn't be able to cause a destructive attack on the Mystic Moon Sacred City. It was impossible for the enemy to stop. Cover me, let me do it. Li Lingtian hovered in the sky as he watched the destructive attack fly past him with a calm expression on his face. In this destructive storm, he floated gracefully in the middle of the attack. However, the destructive attack did not hinder him at all, as if it had bypassed him. Naturally, he would not stand idly by when the Xiaoyao Empire was destroyed. Then, he shouted loudly. After saying that, his body flashed and he flew towards the Mystic Moon Sacred City, arriving below the war god. All the attacks were blocked by the war god. At that moment, Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and unleashed the Empyrean Terminus Tyrant Saber. After the heavenly extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber was executed, the pressure of destruction erupted. With a vicious look in his eyes, he turned into a bolt of lightning and quickly flew toward the city wall. Heavenly Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber. Tyrannical Blade Art Nirvana Wind Cloud Break. With a loud roar, his figure had already arrived 2 meters from the city wall. Then, he stopped and circulated the true essence in his body to the extreme. He raised the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber in his hand, and a destructive saber intent erupted from his entire body. The Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber slashed down, and instantly, the world fell silent. What followed was a tremor in the air. The wind and clouds surged, but this surge of wind and clouds strangely gathered together. Its target was the huge iron gate on the city wall. Boom! An explosion sounded. The attack of the Heaven's Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber shook the iron door, and the iron door was destroyed inch by inch. However, Li Lingtian did not stop at that moment. All the vital essence in his body vanished, and at the same time, a powerful and terrifying dragon energy soared into the sky. The dragon energy originated from Li Lingshan's body. Instantly, Li Lingtian transformed into a 1,000-meter-long winged dragon. The power of the Yinglong could destroy the heavens and earth, and it was not an exaggeration to say that it could break the heavens. At that moment, Li Lingtian transformed into a flying rain dragon and charged toward the iron door with the power to tear through space. Gotcha! A shocking explosion sounded. The winged dragon's destructive power destroyed the iron gate, and at the same time, a 50-meter-wide gap appeared on the city wall. The formation trembled when the gap appeared. Roar! A loud roar came from the Yinglong's mouth. Its body flashed and its 1,000-meter-long body floated in the air. Its huge tail smashed down on the formation above the mystic moon sacred city. Divine martial profound heaven sword. The sword will destroy the world. The huge tail swept down fiercely, and the array began to tremble. At that moment, Li Lingtian transformed into his true form and activated his terrifying true essence. His divine consciousness summoned the divine martial black heaven sword. The divine martial black heavenly sword turned into a destructive sword light. The sword light carried sword will and metal will as it slashed down fiercely at the array. Rumble! A shocking explosion sounded. With the iron door as the center, the array was swept by the tail and then bombarded by the divine martial black heavenly sword. Immediately, a hole was torn open in the array. Rumble! Rumble! Seeing this situation, the 10 war gods continuously emitted destructive lights. In the blink of an eye, the defensive array formation was destroyed. All of this seemed to take a long time. However, the entire process, from Li Lingshan's attack on the iron door to Li Lingshan's attack on the array formation, and finally using the divine martial profound heaven sword to break the array formation, only took a few seconds. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! Instantly, the sound of battle resounded throughout the world. Li Lingshan's domineering method of breaking through the defense and attacking instead of using a formation caught the mystic moon sacred city off guard. Moreover, the powerhouses from the Carefree dynasty did not know why Li Lingtian did not use the formation to break the formation. Instead, he had a powerful method to destroy the formation. However, only Lu Haotian and the rest understood that there was something odd about the formation. Moreover, it was specifically targeted at Li Lingtian. If Li Lingtian used the formation to break the formation, he would be trapped by the formation. However, Li Lingtian had seen through it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have allowed the experts and army of the Xiaoyao dynasty to attack the city and then personally use their terrifying strength to break the array. Seeing that the formation had been broken, the experts of the mystic moon sacred city were clearly shocked. At this moment, the cries of the Carefree dynasty sounded. Countless experts and armies tore apart the array formation and quickly flew into the city. Instantly, the armies from both sides engaged in battle. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as he stared at the 10 martial god powerhouses. Yun Aotian, Tian Qingzi, and the gorilla demon beside him also looked at the 10 martial god experts on the city wall. As long as they attacked, they would not retreat. Li Lingtian, you're strong but you don't stand a chance today. Lang Xiaotian spoke loudly when he saw that Li Lingtian did not move and the 10 martial god powerhouses from the mystic moon holy city did not move either. At that moment, he understood that no matter how much Li Lingtian defied the heavens, he would not dare to make a move. After all, no matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he was only a martial saint. On the other hand, there were 10 martial god powerhouses in the mystic moon holy city. Haha, I don't even need to do anything. I'm waiting for someone to appear. If she doesn't, it'll destroy the entire Black Continent and turn it into hell. Li Lingtian burst into laughter. His laughter was wild and unrestrained. Moreover, he retracted his true essence and looked at the sky, completely ignoring this battle. In the great battle, hundreds and thousands of soldiers died every second. His voice was extremely relaxed, but to all the experts, it was completely trembling. His tone was as if the entire Black Continent was in his pocket. He wanted to slaughter the entire Black Continent and turn it into hell. Such boldness and methods made people tremble. Moreover, his expression was relaxed and confident, as if that person would definitely appear. Rumble! 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 The battle did not seem to stop at all. Instead, it became more and more intense. Countless armies and experts disappeared in an instant. Do you think it's possible? Lang Xiaotian was stunned as he was completely stunned by Li Lingshan's appearance. He then spoke loudly. He knew who Li Lingtian was referring to, but it was impossible for that person to appear. As he spoke, his face was filled with disdain. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he was only a martial saint. It would be wishful thinking if he wanted the Holy Emperor to appear. You're here. Ben Gong has been waiting for you for a long time. At this moment, an ethereal and sweet voice sounded. The sound was extremely clear in the midst of the loud explosion of destruction. It was like the sound of nature that spread throughout the entire battlefield. Instantly, all the battles stopped. The world was temporarily quiet. All the experts and the army separated. The strange silence filled the battlefield with an oppressive aura that was even more terrifying than death. All the experts and the army felt extremely pressured. Even the expressions of the 10 martial god experts on the city wall changed. Yun Aotan and Tian Qingzi were also extremely shocked. They did not expect the battlefield to become like this. Does it feel like a long time? I don't think that fairy is becoming more and more beautiful. When Li Lingtian heard the voice, he was shocked. He had originally guessed that the lady in white was in the Mystic Moon Empire. However, he never thought that he would really be in the Mystic Moon Empire. What was even more unexpected was that this woman in white appeared at this time. Moreover, her identity was extremely strange. However, his expression was extremely calm as he spoke indifferently, as if he was meeting an old friend. Even now, he still did not understand the identity of this woman in white. It was extremely quiet between heaven and earth. Li Lingtian looked up at the sky with a calm and confident expression. However, no one saw the owner of the sweet voice appear. But soon, an ethereal white-robed woman appeared in the air. Her figure was slender, and her otherworldly aura was like that of a goddess from the 9 heavens. For a moment, all the experts in the army were mesmerized by this white-robed woman. This kind of temperament and ethereal appearance was no longer an ordinary person, but a goddess of the 9 heavens. Greetings, Saint Emperor. Greetings, Saint Emperor. However, what happened next shocked Li Lingtian and the Carefree Empire's powerhouse army. Countless powerful cultivators of the Mystic Moon Empire knelt down when they saw the woman in white. At the same time, the other soldiers and experts of the Mystic Moon Empire also knelt down. Their faces were filled with respect, not because the other party was a girl. Lord Sage Emperor? The ruler of the Mystic Moon Empire, the 3 Saint Emperors of the Mystic Continent. Li Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. He never expected the woman in white to be the Holy Emperor of the Mystic Moon Empire, the true ruler of the empire. The woman he met at the Divine Martial Hall was actually the Divine Emperor. He didn't think that this girl would need to take risks. The army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty were shocked when they saw this. Li Lingtian. The lady in white looked in Li Lingshan's direction and called out to him. With a thin veil on her face, one could not see her peerless appearance at all. One could not tell the expression on the woman in white's face. However, with this peerless grace, it was obvious that this woman was a peerless beauty. Northern Nether Snow Fairy. Li Lingtian nodded with a faint smile on his face. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He didn't know the identity of this woman in white, and he even spoke in a teasing tone. However, since it had already come to this, he might as well keep it that way. The two of them spoke as if they were friends who had not seen each other for a long time. There was no anger in them, nor was there any suppression from the background of the battlefield. Chapter 837. The Figure in the Black Hole. 1. Lise reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M. I didn't expect you to reach the second sky of the Martial Saint realm so quickly. It's indeed beyond my expectations. Bei Minxue took void steps and left the Mystic Moon Holy City step by step. She hovered in the air 100 meters away from Li Lingtian outside the city wall. They kept sizing up Li Lingtian and the 10 martial god powerhouses followed by Ming Xue out. Yes, indeed. I also feel that it's a little faster. Li Lingtian responded with a faint smile on his face. He knew a little about the Divine Emperor of the Mystic Moon Empire. He didn't know anything else, but he knew the name of the Divine Emperor. He could ignore the rest of the information because it was useless to him. No one knew where the Sage Emperor came from or what kind of background he had. He didn't expect Bei Minxue to be the white-robed woman he had met last time. For a moment, the atmosphere in front of the Mystic Moon Holy City was extremely tense. Li Lingtian, the ruler of the Carefree Empire, was actually so familiar with the Holy Emperor of the Mystic Moon Empire as if they were good friends. No one knew what would happen next. After all, the Xiaoyao Empire and the Mystic Moon Empire were enemies. You came for her? Bimingsu looked at Li Lingtian and extended her hand. She tossed a jade slip at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian did not even look at it as he reached out to grab the jade slip. His expression changed drastically when he extended his divine perception into the jade slip. Gradually, his expression calmed down. No one knew what was inside the jade slip or what Li Lingtian had discovered. However, he could see Bei Mingshu's relaxed expression. Tell me where she is. Li Lingtian retracted his divine consciousness as his eyes revealed a cold expression. His sharp gaze seemed to want to swallow Bei Mingshu whole. Since you're so powerful, then go down and find her. Bei Mingsu could not help but shudder when she saw Li Lingshan's icy gaze. However, she extended her hand and the world changed color. At the same time, Bei Minxue and the 10 martial god experts retreated. At this moment, a black hole appeared in the space where Bei Minxue and the others were standing. In the black hole, a figure fell into the depths. Li Lingshan's eyes were almost bleeding as he dashed into the black hole in a flash. After his figure entered the black hole, he disappeared, and so did the black hole. Between heaven and earth, the strange atmosphere almost crushed all the experts and the army. However, after a short period of silence, the army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty roared out, and the world-destroying battle began again. This was because Li Lingtian had been trapped by Bei Mingshu's black hole. Li Lingshan's existence was the soul of the carefree dynasty. Naturally, they could not tolerate Li Lingshan's death. Army, retreat 10,000 miles away. However, at this moment, a faint voice sounded from the war god. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was stunned when she heard this voice. Then, she seemed to understand something. Retreat! He waved the flag in his hand, and all the troops and experts immediately retreated. None of the experts and armies had expected the war between the Xiaoyao Empire and the Mystic Moon Empire to end just like that. The Xiaoyao Empire army retreated for tens of thousands of miles, but the Mystic Moon Empire army did not pursue them. This situation made all the experts in the world extremely puzzled. Moreover, the Xiaoyao dynasty army was stationed 10,000 miles away. They did not really leave, nor did they look like they were going to fight. In the Mystic Moon Empire, the formation was repaired. All the experts and armies were on the city walls. Bei Minxue had been floating in the air the entire time and hadn't returned to the city. News of the war between the Free and Unfettered Empire and the Mystic Moon Empire spread throughout the world. All the experts in the world were extremely confused about the battle between the Free and Unfettered Empire and the Mystic Moon Empire. However, the incident of Li Lingtian from Freedom Dynasty being ambushed by Bei Mingsu's black hole shocked the world. Li Lingtian had never left the black hole since the beginning. It was as if the black hole had disappeared forever. At the same time, it left a few mysteries to the experts of the world. Firstly, they did not know what Li Lingtian saw in the jade slip. Secondly, they did not know what Li Lingtian saw in the black hole that led him into it. For a moment, the armies of the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire were restless. Countless armies gathered at the borders of the Mystic Moon Empire. The war of the entire Xian continent was about to break out. However, thousands of miles away from the Mystic Moon Holy City, on the war god, countless masters were gathered. Inside the war god, Huangfu Yuyan and the others were gathered in the training room. Every girl's face was extremely solemn, and no one spoke. However, there was a white-robed young man at the head of the table. Who else could it be but Li Lingtian, who had entered the black hole? At this moment, Li Lingshan's eyes were closed like a statue. No one expected Li Lingtian to still be on the war god after entering the black hole. Sister Yuyan, how much time do we have? Tang Ziming asked Huangfu Yuyan anxiously. Little sister Meng Meng, don't worry. His clone has 3 days to return. As long as he returns to his original body within 3 days, he won't be injured at all. Huangfu Yuyan's expression was calm as she spoke to Tang Ziming in a comforting tone. In this place, she was a little older than the other girls, and she had a wide range of knowledge. She was also more assertive than the other girls when dealing with things. Naturally, all the girls regarded her as an older sister. As an older sister, She naturally had to comfort the other younger sisters. Even if he was not confident, he would not show any signs of anxiety in front of Tang Ziming and the others because she wanted to stabilize the hearts of the other sisters. Outsiders naturally did not know that Li Lingtian who had entered the black hole was merely a clone of Li Lingtian. It was just that this clone was still very weak. The last time in Liberty Sacred City, after killing the black-robed expert, he obtained the clone technique. He had also cultivated for a while. With the strength of his divine sense and his agile mind, he had also mastered the avatar technique in a short period of time. However, the avatar was not that stable yet, and his cultivation was not that powerful. However, it was useful this time. When he saw the figure in the black hole, he used the clone technique and sent his clone into the black hole. His original body, however, used the control of space to mysteriously disappear and return to the war god. As his clone was not strong, he did not dare to move at all. Otherwise, his clone would be destroyed and his cultivation would also decline. This move was very risky, but it was also a solution that had no other choice. On one side was Xiaoyao, and on the other side was his wife. Moreover, it wasn't just one or two of them. If he entered the black hole and any danger happened, he would let Huangfu Yuyan and the others down. If he gave up on Xiaoyao, he would never be able to rest in peace. Fortunately, there was an avatar. If the avatar entered the black hole, even if the avatar was destroyed, the main body would not disappear. At that time, he would only have to cultivate for another 2 years. Then why don't we leave this place? Otherwise, if the Mystic Moon Empire counterattacks, it will affect Big Brother Ling Tian. Shenyuan Yingying was extremely worried as well. This was the most dangerous time. If Li Lingshan's clone did not return, his cultivation would drop. Moreover, the armies of the Mystic Moon Empire and the Free and Unfettered Empire were in a standoff. Who knew when a war would erupt? No need. We can't leave this place. If we leave too far away, we'll lose contact with the clone. Besides, unless it's absolutely necessary, we can't leave this place. Unless a martial god from the Mystic Moon Empire attacks, we can't leave this place, said Shan Mei-er. Although they couldn't cultivate the clone technique at their current realm, they still had some understanding of clones. One could only cultivate avatars after reaching the martial god realm. Moreover, there were not many martial god experts who possessed avatars. They were only 1 in 10,000 existences. In other words, basically, a clone was cultivated by a martial god expert with heaven-defying opportunities. Furthermore, Li Lingtian was only a martial saint powerhouse. It was already heaven-defying for him to cultivate a clone with his heaven-defying methods and physique. His cultivation was too low, and his realm limited his clones. This state could not be made up for by any means. Therefore, the clone and the main body could not be too far away, at most 20,000 miles away. If they were to leave this distance, the main body and the clone would lose contact. At that time, Li Lingshan's clone would vanish into thin air and his main body's cultivation would drop drastically. Then let's be more serious for the next few days and wait for Ling Tian's clone to return, Tang Qingyue said. The only thing they could do now was to wait for Li Lingshan's clone to return. On the war god, countless powerhouses were gathered together. Although the army saw Li Lingtian enter the black hole, they did not panic at all. After all, Li Lingtian was like a god to them. Li Lingtian could come and go as he pleased even if it was hell, let alone a mere black hole. News spread the fastest in Shenzhou no matter when. News of the war between the Free and Unfettered Empire and the Mystic Moon Empire, as well as Li Lingshan's entry into the black hole, had spread throughout the world. The armies of the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire quickly gathered at the borders of the Mystic Moon Empire. The world shook, and a great battle was about to break out. Li Lingshan's heart trembled as he looked at the figure. His body flashed into the black hole. Although it was only a clone, it already possessed all of Li Lingshan's thoughts and wisdom. However, his cultivation was only 1/3 of the original. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The black hole was bottomless and the surroundings were pitch black. The destructive aura continued to corrode Li Lingtian, but it was nothing compared to Li Lingtian. After all, Li Lingtian had obtained the destruction cyclone in the divine martial hall. He had also been tempered by the dragon energy and divine energy, And he had the 5-element sacred body and the heavenly sword body. All of this made his defense invincible. However, he did not dare to be careless at this moment. After all, this was a black hole, and he was not his original body. He was just a clone. Moreover, there was still that figure below. If anything happened, it would be too late for regret. Chapter 839. Northern Dark Divine Moon Art Lease Reading Omicron N Novel Cool. Omicron M, if you didn't give me the heavenly spiritual pearl, you wouldn't have suffered so much. Li Lingtian revealed a faint smile. His heart ached for her. It had been so difficult for a girl to make it through all these years. As he spoke, he reached out and stroked Yun Yaoyao's face. Yun Yaoyao was elated to see that Li Lingtian did not blame her. From now on, she would not care about her family or anything else. She was happy to be by Li Lingshan's side. Looking at Li Lingshan's carefree appearance and smile, she felt blissful. This younger brother of his was no longer the young man from a few years ago. He was a real man, a man who could support the heavens and the earth. He was an expert that all the experts in the world had to respect. Now that you're here, it's fate between you and Xiaoyao. Yun Xiaoyao blushed and pointed forward. She thought back to the time when Li Lingtian treated her wounds. At that time, she was not wearing any clothes and was only separated by a thin veil. Li Lingtian did not suspect anything. He looked in the direction Yun Yaoyao was pointing and saw that the sky above the black hole was pitch black. However, the two of them were in the halo, and countless mysterious characters were flashing in the halo. He was a super holy array master, and his strength was almost at the level of a divine array master. Naturally, he knew that this was a mysterious array or something passed down by an ancient expert. Moreover, when he first arrived, he heard a few faint voices. He did not know where this voice came from. At this moment, he looked down and saw a gray bead. The pearl looked exactly the same as the heavenly spirit pearl he wore on his chest. The only difference was the color. Earth Spiritual Pearl. Li Lingtian cried out in surprise as the expression on his face changed. He did not expect to encounter the mysterious Earth Spiritual Pearl in this place. The Earth Spiritual Pearl was a legendary item that was as magical and powerful as the Heavenly Spiritual Pearl. If the Heavenly Spiritual Pearl and the Earth Spiritual Pearl were to fuse together, it would release a miraculous power. Moreover, at this moment, the Heavenly Spiritual Pearl in front of his chest emitted a faint mysterious halo, forming a mysterious connection with the Earth Spiritual Pearl below. Yes, this is the Earth Spiritual Pearl. You still don't know, but this place is the forbidden land of the Xinyue Empire, the Xinyue Palace. It's also one of the 2 holy lands of the Biming family. The Biming family's treasure is the Dark North Divine Moon Mantra. It's known as one of the most powerful sacred scriptures in the ancient times. However, no one in the Divine Martial Continent has cultivated the Dark North Divine Moon Mantra. Yun Yaoyao nodded and said softly. Her voice was like the sound of nature. She reached out to hold Li Lingshan's hand as her beautiful eyes stared at the Earth Spiritual Pearl below. Around the two of them, there was a magical halo flashing. It looked extremely magical. The Dark North Divine Moon Art is here? Li Lingshan's expression changed as he looked at the runes in the halo and listened to Yun Yaoyao's words. He didn't expect the Mystic Moon Empire to have such a powerful background. It was actually the Biming family, one of the 10 great families of the Divine Continent. It seemed that every family in the Divine Continent had a heaven-defying existence and some legends. In the future, he would have to witness the power of the Divine Continent. That's right. The Dark North Divine Moon Art is here. Moreover, this light is also the light of the Dark North Divine Moon. The light of the Dark North Divine Moon can increase a cultivator's intelligence and soul power. Yun Yaoyao nodded and said earnestly, her face filled with anticipation. Give you the Heavenly Spiritual Pearl. Let's go out. I'm only a clone now. The battle outside hasn't ended yet. My true body is still outside. If the Mystic Moon Empire were to disturb me, then it would be troublesome. Li Lingtian looked at Yun Yaoyao and pondered for a moment. He was about to remove the Heavenly Spirit Pearl from his neck when Yun Yaoyao stopped him. No, the Mystic Moon Empire is also the power of the Biming family in the Black Continent. Sister Xue won't disturb you. Besides, you're already here. If you want to leave, you'll have to comprehend the Dark North Divine Moon art. Otherwise, the two of us won't be able to get out. Moreover, you've cultivated the dragon race's cultivation technique. If you cultivate the Dark North Divine Moon art, it will be of endless help to you. Xiaoyao said with a smile. She looked at Li Lingshan's actions as if she was looking at Li Lingtian a few years ago. Then, he told her about the situation in this place. I see. Then I can only work hard. Li Lingtian was taken aback. He knew that Xiaoyao was not lying to him and there was no need to lie to him. Then, he sat down cross-legged and circulated his divine sense. He executed a series of hand seals. He quickly recorded the characters in the magical halo and sorted them out over and over again. Xiaoyao told him about the Dark North Divine Moon art that she cultivated, but it was completely different from the runes here. Li Lingtian was shocked by the situation as well. He did not expect that the person he encountered would be completely different from the person he received. It seemed that this cultivation technique also differed from person to person. Gradually, Li Lingtian closed his eyes and began to organize the runes he had obtained. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian felt a slight change in his body. It was as if a cool breeze had entered his body. Little did he know that the magical halo was pouring down on Li Lingtian like moonlight before finally entering his body. As time passed, everything in the black hole turned pitch black, and the halo almost disappeared. Only the heavenly spiritual pearl on Li Lingshan's chest and the earth spiritual pearl below him shone faintly. Yes! At that moment, Xiaoyao shouted softly, and a powerful force put away the earth spirit pearl. When Li Lingtian opened his eyes, the heavenly spiritual pearl around his neck had already left his body and was suspended in the air. Just as Xiaoyao took the earth spiritual pearl away, the heavenly spiritual pearl shot toward Li Lingtian with one hand. In the end, it ignored Li Lingshan's existence as if the light had already disappeared from Li Lingshan's body. Although he did not know where the heavenly spiritual pearl had gone, Li Lingtian knew that it had entered his body. It was as if moonlight had entered his body and completely fused with it. Dark North Divine Moon Art, Heaven and Earth Spiritual Pearl Fusion, Winged Wandering. Ao Shao Heaven Spirit Hall. I've traveled hundreds of millions of miles. With a single thought. Li Lingtian and Xiaoyao's expressions were solemn as they chanted a mysterious incantation. The two of them emitted a faint halo, which was exactly the same as the one at the beginning. At the same time, their palms met, and the black hole trembled continuously. A gust of wind and moon-like aura spread out, and the black hole disappeared into thin air. Li Lingtian hovered in the air. In his line of sight, Xiaoyao was blushing as she stared at him. The duo miraculously left the black hole and appeared at the spot where Li Lingtian had disappeared. Inside the war god, Li Lingtian opened his eyes with a hint of excitement on his lips. There was no movement as his figure disappeared. Tang Qingyue and the others were stunned when they saw Li Lingshan's disappearance. They then flashed and quickly flew in the direction of the Mystic Moon Sacred City. Naturally, Li Lingshan's original body could sense the appearance of his clone. Li Lingshan's body was swiftly shuttling through the air. However, there was not the slightest fluctuation. Even a ninth heavenly layer martial saint powerhouse could not sense Li Lingtian in the air. Li Lingtian arrived at the front of the Mystic Moon Holy City. He did not even look at Bei Minxue who was floating in the air. Instead, he moved toward his clone in a flash and a spatial fluctuation appeared. The original body and the clone fused in an instant. No one saw all of this. Li Lingshan's doppelganger merged with his original body and transformed into a stream of consciousness and true essence that entered his dantian. Northern Nether Snow Fairy. Thank you very much. Li Lingtian spoke to Bai Mingxue. Outsiders might not know what was going on, but Bai Mingxue did. Because she was the one who controlled everything and planned everything. Sir Lingtian, congratulations. No, you should call me sister now. I'll have to call you brother-in-law in the future. The experts of the world, the army of the Mystic Moon Sacred City, and the experts of the free and unfettered empire who were rushing over were all stunned by Bei Mingxue's words. They almost fell to the ground. The Holy Emperor of the Mystic Moon Empire had actually spoken to Li Lingtian in such a manner. Moreover, they were all shocked. Li Lingtian was clearly trapped in the black hole, but they did not expect him to appear in the air so strangely. Furthermore, there was a peerless beauty in the air. Sister Xue. Xiaoyao held Li Lingshan's hand. Her delicate little face was flushed red and she dared not look up at Li Lingtian. I wonder how Sister Xue is going to deal with the current situation. Li Lingtian was stunned by Bei Mingsu's sudden change. However, since she had said so, he could not reject her. Besides, it would not be good for Xiaoyao if he did. After all, Bei Mingsu was Xiaoyao's older sister. However, now that the Xiaoyao dynasty and the Mystic Moon Empire had come to this, they naturally had to settle this. You're a man. Don't tell me you want to bully a little girl like me? I don't want to care about the Mystic Moon Empire anymore. Do as you see fit. Consider it a gift from my Beiming family. Bei Mingsu looked at Li Lingtian. Behind the veil, no one could see Bei Mingsu's face and expression. However, her words had shocked all the powerhouses in the world. Freedom King's expert was even more puzzled. He did not know what the other party was up to. Thank you, Sister Xue. Lingtian won't be pretentious. Li Lingtian was taken aback. He never expected such a thing to happen. However, since things had come to this, the Xiaoyao dynasty was eager for this. The Mystic Moon Empire had preserved their strength, and the Xiaoyao dynasty hadn't suffered any major losses. When the two powerful existences fused together, they would become even stronger. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At that moment, Huangfu Yuyan and the others had arrived by Li Lingshan's side. When they saw Xiaoyao and Li Lingtian, they finally understood who this girl was. Shan Mei was even more aware that the two of them had met a few times. In the past, the two of them had always been at odds with each other. She did not expect that the two of them would have a common husband now. Soon, Shan Mei and the others greeted Xiaoyao. The girls did not have any disagreements. Li Lingtian was relieved to see this. Chapter 840. The Situation in the Black Continent. 1. Lise reading Omicron N novel cool. Omicron M. As the girls were greeting each other, Li Lingtian quickly stepped aside and ordered Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others to handle the matters in the Mystic Moon Empire. The Mystic Moon Empire was a powerful empire that had been reorganized by Li Lingtian. Even though they were not convinced, Li Lingshan's strength was evident. Furthermore, even the Holy Emperor had given up on him. There was nothing they could say. Moreover, the powerhouses and armies of the Mystic Moon Empire were not fools. They could tell that Li Lingtian and the Sage Emperor were acquaintances at a glance. The war between the two countries was nothing more than a game. Now that the game was over, Li Lingtian took over the Mystic Moon Empire. Following that, Li Lingtian and the others entered the Mystic Moon Holy City and arrived at the Mystic Moon Palace. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others would naturally handle the matters between the Xiaoyao Empire and the Xinyue Empire. Li Lingtian and the others were also staying in the Xinyue Palace. Li Lingtian and the others were curious about the Divine Moon Palace. There was a Divine Moon Hall back in Tianhe's Sacred City, but they did not expect the Mystic Moon Empire in Mystic Continent to have one. However, this did not affect them at all. The girls knew about Xiaoyao and understood her place in Li Lingtian's heart. Like Xiaoyao, they could not afford to lose any of Li Lingtian. Moreover, Xiaoyao was a peerless beauty. The few girls got to know each other very quickly and got along very well. Li Lingtian, Huangfu Yuyan, and the rest never expected that Bei Mingsu and Xiaoyao looked exactly the same. Even their expressions were the same. If the two of them wore the same clothes, it would be impossible to tell who was Bei Mingxue and who was Xiaoyao. However, based on Li Lingshan's cultivation base, he could tell that Bei Mingxue had a cold aura and a superior aura on her if he observed her carefully. Xiaoyao, on the other hand, was less cold and more gentle and approachable. She was like a girl from a family, and her body carried a holy aura. In the Xinyue Palace, there was laughter and laughter. On the other hand, the Xian continent was in chaos. The Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire were planning to attack the Mystic Moon Empire after Li Lingtian was trapped in the black hole and wipe out the Carefree Empire. However, they never thought that the free and unfettered empire and the Mystic Moon Empire would end up like this. Not only did the two countries not fight, but they even turned hostility into friendship. Now, the Mystic Moon Empire had become the free and unfettered empire, and the free and unfettered empire had become a true empire with shocking power. Coupled with Li Lingshan's strength and methods, the carefree empire was even more terrifying than the previous Mystic Moon Empire. Moreover, the appearance of Bei Ming Xue from the Mystic Moon Empire meant that the Bai Ming family was behind the Mystic Moon Empire. The armies of the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire were gathered at the border of the Carefree dynasty. It was impossible for them to retreat. If they retreated at this time, the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire would become the laughingstock of the Xian continent. As a last resort, the two empires formed an alliance to fight against Li Lingtian's Freedom Dynasty. You are destined to be enemies with the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire. The Mystic Moon Empire originally balanced the other two empires, forming a three-legged balance in the Xian continent. You also know that the Mystic Moon Empire is the Bai Ming family's property. The Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire are naturally the property of the families of the Divine Continent. Now that you've taken over the Mystic Moon Empire, even if you don't make a move against the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire, they'll still make a move against you. In the future, you're destined to become the opponent of the two great clans of the Divine Continent. You should seriously consider whether you want to fight or not. In the Divine Moon Palace, Bei Ming Xue was dressed in a snow-white veil. She looked extremely beautiful, like a goddess from the 9 heavens. However, she wasn't wearing a veil. Li Lingtian and the others were in the Divine Moon Palace for the past few days. The matters outside were handled by the subordinates. He was also happy and peaceful as he cultivated in peace. Xiaoyao and Li Lingtian had not met for a long time, so their relationship was extremely good. Bei Ming Xue often played around in the Xinyue Palace. She was extremely natural when she spoke to Li Lingtian. There was no difference in cultivation level between the two of them, and they weren't bothered by what had happened between the Mystic Moon Empire and the Free and Unfettered Empire. On the contrary, Li Lingtian had taken over the Mystic Moon Empire and she did not have to worry about it. Naturally, she was overjoyed. Moreover, Li Lingtian's strength was extremely powerful and his methods were unparalleled. Coupled with Xiaoyao's relationship, Li Lingtian was now considered one of them. Furthermore, he had already cultivated the Dark North Divine Moon art. Although Li Lingtian did not admit that he was related to the Bai Ming family, he did not object either. This was because he did not have the slightest understanding of this family. However, having a super family as a friend was at least better than becoming an enemy. Since we are already here, a great battle is naturally unavoidable. Besides, you've already pushed the matter to me. Do you think I can still retreat? With a faint smile on his face, Li Lingtian glanced at Bei Ming Xue. She found it funny. Bei Ming Xue looked exactly like Xiaoyao. Such sisters were indeed pleasing to the eye. This is your style. With your current strength, you won't have any problems in Shenzhou. But you can't go to the Divine Continent. If you go to the Divine Continent, your current strength is really not enough. So, you have to take it seriously and raise your cultivation. Bei Ming Xue looked at Li Lingtian with admiration. She was extremely satisfied with the young man before her. She was only 2 or 3 years older than him and her cultivation was 1 realm higher than Li Lingshan's. However, her abilities were not as good as Li Lingshan's. In terms of realm, as a superclan, they had a huge advantage. Whether it was cultivation techniques, medicinal pills, or some secret techniques, they were not something ordinary people could compare to. They could only be existences that could only be looked up to. Although Li Lingtian was the Divine Martial Continent's #1 divine alchemist, he had an astonishing canon and treasures. However, without the guidance of some important figures, and with Li Lingtian wasting a lot of time, he could not compare to them. Now, even his sister Xiaoyao was on the verge of becoming a martial god. With Li Lingshan's heavenly spiritual pearl guiding him, the Earth Spiritual Pearl was triggered and he finally comprehended the Dark North Divine Moon mantra. With this opportunity, as long as he cultivated hard, he would be able to reach the martial god realm within a year. Yes, it's true. I've already reached the peak of the second sky of the martial saint realm. I've also cultivated the Dark North Divine Moon art. As long as I cultivate for a period of time, I'll be able to reach the third sky of the martial saint realm. Although the Divine Continent is powerful, it's a true paradise for the truly powerful. So, after I've settled the matter in the Black Continent, I'll go to the Divine Continent and see how powerful it is. The Xian Continent is just a stepping stone. The Divine Martial Continent is my world. I want no one in this world to threaten me. I want to bring them to roam the world. Li Lingshan's expression was extremely serious. His body exuded a faintly discernible and powerful aura. This aura was completely proportional to his confidence and strength. He looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the others with a gentle gaze before his gaze landed on Yun Yaoyao. After being separated for a few years, they were finally together. Naturally, they were extremely happy. In this life, he no longer had any regrets. However, the more he did so, the more he had to work hard. Only by working hard and becoming stronger could he protect them. When the girls heard Li Lingshan's words and looked at him, they were overjoyed and their hearts were filled with sweetness. This was her man who could make them rely on each other physically and mentally. Actually, you have a few heaven-defying divine artifacts in your hands. As long as you completely unleash these divine artifacts, you will have the ability to protect yourself. Moreover, you already have 3 heavenly swords. If you combine the Heaven Grade Sword and the Heaven Sun Sword, the power of the 5 heavenly swords will reach its peak. At that time even you will be afraid. Bimingsu had a charming smile on her face. Li Lingtian and the others were curious about her expression. This woman in white was mysterious and powerful, noble and cold, and she always wore a veil. But now, she was completely like a little girl. It was indeed funny. Huangfu Yuyan and the others also liked Bei Minxue and her sister. After all, Yun Yaoyao was Li Lingshan's relative from a few years ago. She was also Li Lingshan's benefactor. If it were not for Yun Yaoyao, who knew if Li Lingtian would still be alive? After the war is over, we'll focus on cultivating for a while. We'll go to the Divine Continent after we've improved our cultivation. But are the Heavenly Pole Sword and the Heavenly Sun Sword in Xianzhou? When Li Lingtian heard Bei Mingxue mention the Heavenly Sword, his face was filled with anticipation. 10 years ago, he had obtained the Sky Sword. Now he had gathered 3 heavenly swords, but he was still missing 2. He was naturally extremely happy to receive the news of the 2 heavenly swords. He could not wait to obtain the heavenly swords immediately. It's not that easy to get the Heaven Grade Sword and the Heaven Sun Sword. The Heavenly Sword is in the Sky Blue Empire, and the Heavenly Sun Sword is in the Heavenly Sun Empire. Unless we destroy the 2 empires, we can forget about obtaining the Heavenly Sun Sword and the Heavenly Pole Sword. Bei Minxue said seriously when she saw Li Lingshan's excited expression. The smile on her face also turned serious. Others might not know about the Heavenly Sun Empire and the Sky Blue Empire, but as the Holy Land of the Mystic Moon Empire, she naturally knew about the 2 empires. The forces behind these 2 empires were extremely powerful, and there were countless experts who came to the Black Continent. Although Li Lingtian was powerful, it would not be easy for him to wipe out the 2 empires. Moreover, the Crystal Pavilion has sent news that the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace in Xianzhou is about to open. It seems to be during this period of time. I don't know the exact location, but a few experts from the Divine Continent have already come to the Xian Continent. It seems that they are here for the matter of the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. At this moment, Yun Yaoyao, who had been silent all this while, spoke up. When she spoke, she looked extremely serious. She was a member of the Biming family and the young master of the Crystal Pavilion. Her status was extremely powerful. The Crystal Pavilion had the most information in the entire Divine Martial Continent, so they naturally knew some unknown information. Xiaoyao Immortal Palace? Both Li Lingtian and Bei Minxue cried out in shock. He looked at Yun Yaoyao. This news was too shocking. Even with their identities, they were still shocked by this news. Chapter 841. Xiaoyao Immortal Palace Lease reading Omicron N Novel Cool. Omicron M. Others might not know about the mystery of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, but Li Lingtian and Bei Mingxue knew. Xiaoyao Immortal Palace had a mysterious background and was extremely powerful. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was one of the 6 secret realms of the Divine Martial Continent. It was also the most magical place. Li Lingtian had been to a few places and they were considered powerful. However, They were not on the same level as the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. That's right, it's the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, one of the 6 secret realms of the Divine Martial Continent. It's located in Shenzhou. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace only opens once every 2,000 years at this time. There are only 81 slots to enter the palace, and you need a token to enter. Those who enter are either martial god experts or experts from the Nitian clans and super forces. Xiaoyao was at her most serious when she told him the news, because she was used to it. As the young pavilion master, he was very serious about news. Now that the news concerned his own family, he was naturally extremely serious. Slowly, Xiaoyao revealed some of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace's secrets, as well as some other secrets that no one knew. If this information was revealed to other experts, it would be impossible to buy it. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace is rumored to be related to the other secret realms in the Divine Martial Continent. Moreover, the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace holds the key to breaking through the critical point of the Divine Martial Continent and ascending to the upper realm. Therefore, the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace has also become a fairyland in the eyes of the Divine Martial Continent's super experts. Countless super experts have entered the palace to search for some mysterious existences. There are countless treasures and materials inside, but the experts who enter basically have a slim chance of survival. Moreover, there are no experts who have obtained the true secret inside. Even so, the experts of the world would still flock for it. This is the common problem of the experts of the Divine Martial Continent. As long as there is a slight chance, they will take the risk. Li Lingtian took over Xiaoyao's topic and told her about Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. This Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was not like other mystic realms, but it was an independent world. Moreover, the position of the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was different. It was moving at any time, just like an island that could drift. It was unknown when this palace had been left behind. There were countless mysterious treasures and cultivation techniques inside. It was completely included by a martial artist. It was inexhaustible. However, there were not many who obtained treasures. Moreover, even if they obtained these treasures, they might not be able to control them. Moreover, there were many restrictions in entering the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. Firstly, the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace would only be open for 2,000 years. In other words, even if every martial artist was extremely heaven-defying, they would only be able to open it once in their lifetime. This was because even the strongest martial god expert could only live for 2,000 years. Secondly, there were only 81 people who could enter Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. One more person would make Xiaoyao Immortal Palace disappear. Thirdly, there were array formations and dangers everywhere in Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. There were also countless terrifying demonic beasts. Fourthly, if one wanted to leave Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, only 9 people could stay inside. 9 people could activate the teleportation array of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, or they would stay inside Xiaoyao Immortal Palace forever. I didn't expect that the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace would open at this time. It seems that the war really has to stop. Bei Minxue said indifferently. Her jade-like hands were supporting her chin, and no one knew what she was thinking. Huangfu Yuyan and the others were shocked and started discussing. Li Lingtian and Bei Minxue were lost in thought. After all, both of them used to have extraordinary statuses and now they had to consider the bigger picture. Yao, you should know the token to enter the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, right? Where did this token come from? Shunmei asked Yao. The two of them had met before, and they had always been enemies. However, now that both of them had matured and were Li Lingxian's family, they naturally stopped bickering. On the contrary, they appreciated each other and their relationship was extremely good. Many big families have this token. However, if you want to enter the Immortal Palace, you might not be able to do so with the token. There's still a lot of competition outside the Immortal Palace. Yao nodded. Although she used to live in Maple Leaf Manor, she had been living in the Divine Continent for the past few years. She was in control of the world's news and had a wide range of knowledge. Naturally, she knew more than Shunmei Yao, get your men to gather information and pay attention to what's happening in Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. When the time comes, we will also go in and take a look. Since the war cannot be carried out for the time being, We will go to Xiaoyao Immortal Palace for a stroll. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian looked up with a relaxed expression. Seeing his expression, everyone knew that Li Lingtian had already made up his mind. Otherwise, he would not have been so relaxed. Then he told her his decision. It was good to have a relative who controlled the world's news, because he could know any news in the world sitting at home. Okay, leave this to me. Let's see how powerful your sister is. Xiaoyao said happily, her face blushing. She still regarded herself as Li Lingshan's sister because their relationship had not faded due to time and separation. Instead, it had deepened. The occasional joke could also improve the relationship between the two of them. However, this was the first time she had done this in front of all her sisters. She had also forgotten that there were other sisters here. You're thinking the same thing as me. However, if we leave the Mystic Moon's sacred city, the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire will take the opportunity to attack us. Bei Minxue smiled at Xiaoyao, making her even more embarrassed. However, he looked at Li Lingtian and voiced out his thoughts. Although they did not care about an empire or power, the Carefree Dynasty was Li Lingshan's foundation and could not be shaken. Sister Xue, have you forgotten? My big brother Lingtian is a divine array master powerhouse. He'll be able to fend off powerful enemies from the outside with just a few heaven-defying arrays. Shenyuan Yinglong replied with a smile as she leaned against Li Lingtian. She was not shy at all to show off her affection in front of all her sisters. I forgot about that. With the heaven-defying formation, as long as we protect the Mystic Moon sacred city for a period of time, we won't be harmed. Even if we lose the entire Carefree Empire, as long as the army and experts of the Carefree Empire don't leave the Mystic Moon sacred city, we won't suffer any major losses. Bei Minxue was startled, and her eyes lit up. Li Lingtian used to be a super holy array master, and the arrays he cast were all heaven-defying. Furthermore, there were many super array Dao geniuses below. Li Lingshan's powerful array Dao should have surpassed the holy array master and reached the divine array master level. Now that Shenyuan Yinglong said it, she believed it a little. After all, she was not proficient in array Dao and did not know how powerful Li Lingtian was. Nevertheless, she was assured of Li Lingshan's ability. Although the young man was young, he would never do something he was not confident in. That's right. During this period of time, I'll have the array masters of the Xiaoyao Empire move over. I'll personally set up some arrays in the Mystic Moon sacred city. I guarantee that the foundation of the Xiaoyao Empire will be protected before we return. Li Lingtian nodded in agreement. The Carefree Dynasty was still the Carefree Dynasty, and the Mystic Moon Sacred City was still the Mystic Moon Sacred City. However, the Mystic Moon Empire had changed to the Carefree Dynasty. The Mystic Moon Sacred City wouldn't change its name, because this place had always been part of the Mystic Moon Palace. He had also cultivated the Dark North Mystic Moon art, so he naturally wouldn't change the name of the sacred city. Following that, Xiaoyao's subordinates tried their best to find out more about Xiaoyao Celestial Palace. Li Lingtian gave an order to summon Wu Jizi and a few array masters to Mystic Moon Sacred City. Huangfu Yuyan and the others began to prepare some daily necessities for entering the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. After all, to enter an unfamiliar place, it was necessary for girls to prepare a lot. Li Lingtian began his preparations as well. However, he was using his own array Dao to defend the Mystic Moon Holy City. If he wanted to leave the city, he would have to be wary of the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire attacking. With his array Dao cultivation, as long as he built a powerful defensive array and stationed all the experts and armies inside, the Sky Blue Empire and the Heavenly Sun Empire might not be able to break through the city. For a moment, Li Lingshan's figure appeared in the Mystic Moon Holy City from time to time, but no one knew what he was doing. After half a month, the defense of the Mystic Moon Holy City was finally completed. Li Lingtian had reinforced the city with more than 30,000 formations that were interconnected. If all the small formations were activated, it would activate a heaven-defying defense and attack. After the formation was completed, Li Lingtian told Wu Jizi, Marshal Saint Ming Luo, and the others some of the key points of the formation. Moreover, he needed Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the rest's vital essence to open and close the array. It was impossible for him to open the array by himself. After the array formation was completed, Xiaoyao's subordinates also figured out what happened at Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. The opening time of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was also during this period of time. Moreover, the approximate location of the opening of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace could also be seen. Countless super experts were rushing to the Sky Sea near the Sky Blue Empire. The Sky Sea was the most powerful sea in the entire Black Continent. The sea was vast and boundless. Even martial god experts did not dare to enter it easily, let alone cross the Sky Sea. He didn't expect that the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace would appear in the boundless sea area. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. It's time for us to move. Bei Minxue saw that the matters in the Mystic Moon Sacred City had been settled and was extremely excited. For someone like her, who was in the palace every day, she was naturally excited to go out and play. Alright, but you guys better not show your faces now. Our every move is being watched by the other empires. Even though it's inevitable that they'll find out that we've left the Mystic Moon Sacred City, at least we can't let them know for the next few days. Li Lingtian nodded. He was extremely concerned about finding Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace only appeared once every 2,000 years. He must not miss it. If he missed it, it would be too late to regret it. However, even if he went to the palace, he couldn't let the other experts and opponents know about it. Chapter 842. The Sea in the Sky. Then let's go into the Divine Dragon Ring. Huangfu Yuyan agreed with Li Lingshan's words. The other girls nodded in agreement. After that, everyone entered the Divine Dragon Ring. Li Lingtian left the Mystic Moon Sacred City quietly after putting on his makeup and flew toward the Sky Blue Empire. With his cultivation base, no one would be able to discover him after he concealed his cultivation base. After leaving the Mystic Moon Sacred City for tens of millions of miles, he finally took out a flying ship. Huangfu Yuyan and the others also appeared on the flying ship. With a large group of beautiful women accompanying them, flying was extremely easy. In the past, he had his wife, Ge, Little White, and 3 maids. Now, he had Bei Minxue and her sister. Coupled with Shenyuan Qingqing's cuteness, laughter could be heard from the spaceship from time to time. Li Lingtian had left everything in Liberty Sacred City to Longda and the others. They were the ones who came out this time. The Horizon Sea area is vast and boundless. This time, the location of the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was calculated to be in the Horizon Sea area. However, the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace is like a needle in this Horizon Sea area. It is not so easy to find the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. It can also be said that the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace this time is also a severe test for all the experts in the world, and it is a test of layers. Xiaoyao sat beside Li Lingtian and told him about the incident at Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. The other girls were chatting and playing at the side, and only the 2 of them were discussing the matter of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. After all, Huangfu Yuyan and the others were not clear about these matters. Only Xiaoyao knew a thing or two about Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. Indeed, this sea area is boundless. Even the experts of the 3 empires might not know much about the sea area, let alone experts from other places. In the boundless sea, there are countless sea beasts and experts. It's mysterious, unknown, terrifying. These are all tests for experts. This is the first test. After that, even if we find the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, we have to go through countless battles before we can enter. Li Lingtian nodded with a calm expression on his face, but he was extremely excited. Although the experts he had encountered in the past were all very powerful, the ones he had encountered this time were some of the most powerful experts in the entire Divine Martial Continent. When the time came, it would definitely be extremely intense to fight against these experts. This time, little brother Lingtian, you'll be busy again. The tokens of the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace are not in the hands of the major families and forces. The 99 tokens came from the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, so, Xiaoyao smiled charmingly. Her smile could topple a city, and then a country. He even laughed at the end of his sentence. Although he did not say it out loud, Li Lingtian understood it very well. Time passed day by day, and some news continued to reach Xiaoyao. The spaceship quickly flew across the sky. After 8 days, The flying ship had left the carefree dynasty and arrived at the three great empires' uninhabited area. As long as they crossed the no man's land, they would arrive at the sea near the sky blue empire. The sky ocean was actually an obstacle for the three empires. Among the three empires, there was no specific country that owned the sky ocean. The three empires had fought countless times, but they had never obtained the sky ocean. No matter where it was, the sea area was the most fertile resource area. Naturally, it was a battleground for military strategists. It was even more so for the sea area in the sky. The three empires could not obtain it, but the experts of the three empires could enter the sea area in the sky to search for treasures and resources. On this day, Li Lingshan's spaceship left the no man's land and arrived at the horizon. Looking at the boundless sea, Li Lingtian stopped his spaceship. Everyone took a short rest in a mountain range at the edge of the sea. After all, they had to enter the sea, and they didn't know when they would be able to get their feet on the ground. After resting for a day, the spaceship flew up again and quickly flew towards the center of the sea. Swoosh! As soon as they entered the sea area, a sound of air breaking rang out. Li Lingtian sat cross-legged on the spaceship as his divine consciousness sensed a huge spaceship flying toward the ocean. A man in red stood on the huge spaceship. The man in red was extremely demonic and dazzling. However, what caught everyone's attention was that this man was actually a martial god expert. His strength at the first level of the martial god realm was extremely profound, and he did not show the slightest fear when facing the terrifying wind. Li Lingshan's lips curled into a smile when he saw the man in red. It seemed that the man in red was heading to Xiaoyao Immortal Palace as well. Martial god realm experts were rare. However, a single Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was able to make those hermit experts come out of seclusion. It could be seen how powerful the temptation of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace was. Li Lingshan's expression was calm, but he was getting more and more excited. The flying ship quickly flew into the sea area. Every once in a while, there would be experts entering the sea area. Moreover, the flying ships that these experts drove were incomparably huge and extremely sturdy. The powerhouses who came here were all 9th heavenly layer martial saints. However, they were all scornful when they saw Li Lingtian, who was at the 2nd heavenly layer martial saint. The only thing that reassured Li Lingtian was that these martial saint powerhouses would not make a move at this time. Before seeing the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace and obtaining the treasures, he would not use up his Zhan Yuan or waste his energy. Moreover, it was indeed unwise to cause trouble here, because if one caused trouble here, they would most likely become a mantis and be killed by the Oriole. Xiaoyao couldn't receive any news after entering the sea. After all, the sea was different from land. The sea stretched as far as the eye could see, and there were no experts from the Crystal Pavilion here. Now, they could only rely on themselves and luck to find it. Rumble! The ship had already been in the sea for 10 days. The ship had been flying at high speed for 10 days and was tens of millions of miles away from the edge of the sea. Now, the spaceship had already reached the depths. Among martial artists, there was basically a level of distinction between the sea areas. Generally speaking, the outer area of a powerful sea area was the area where low-level warriors were active because there were all sea beasts of the 1st to the 5th rank. This area was about 1 million miles away from the edge of the sea area, and there were sea beasts of the 5th to the 8th rank. This area was about 10 million miles away from the edge of the sea area. In the depths of the sea area, there were super powerful sea beasts. Even martial saints did not dare to go deep. Usually, they were tens of millions of miles away from the edge of the sea area. The demonic beasts and sea beasts inside were extremely powerful. They were existences that could destroy the world at any moment. On the spaceship, Li Lingshan's expression changed several times as he looked at the distant sea. In the distance, the sky changed color. The originally calm sea was now covered in shocking waves, as if a hurricane had arrived. The sound of explosions shook the space. Huangfu Yuyan and the others were also awakened by the tremors. They came to the plank and looked at the situation in the distance. Boom! Whoosh! Another massive explosion rang out, and a massive island appeared in the distance. The island was pitch black and completely bare. It's a sea beast. A Class 9 sea beast. Li Lingtian looked at the island in the distance as his expression changed. He did not expect to encounter a Tier 9 sea beast here. Although they knew that they had already entered the depths of the sea and it was normal for them to encounter powerful sea beasts, they were still shocked by the appearance of the sea beasts. What a powerful sea beast! A Class 1 Ninth Order sea beast. Its huge body and visual impact are even more terrifying than demonic beasts. The sea beasts are coming towards us. Looks like this sea beast is targeting us. Huangfu Yuyan and the others looked at the huge and terrifying sea beast. Their faces changed, but they were more shocked and excited. Li Lingtian was a second firmament martial saint. Even though he was still far from a Tier 9 mystical beast, he was confident in slaying the sea beast. Rumble! 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 Kacha! Kacha! The enormous sea beast was as big as a mountain range. Its pitch-black body swam rapidly, and a shocking pillar of water shot into the sky with destructive power, causing the sky to tremble. When the water pillar reached this level of power, it was equivalent to the destructive attack of a martial god expert. Space cracked, and the sky changed color. The sky was gray. With an earth-shattering sound, the huge sea beast arrived in front of the spaceship in the blink of an eye. Li Lingtian continued to dodge the attacks of the water pillars by using his spaceship. However, the water pillars were as dense as a storm and he could not dodge them at all. Yu Yan, it's up to you this time. Yinglong will hold the line for you. Li Lingshan's lips curled into a faint smile when he saw the situation. He looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the rest whose expressions were constantly changing and spoke calmly. After that, he turned his head away from Huangfu Yuyan and the rest. Big brother Lingtian, you can't be, right? Such a terrifying sea beast. Are you willing to let your lovely wife fight it? Tang Ziming was stunned when she heard Li Lingshan's words. When she regained her senses, she quickly came to Li Lingshan's side and pleaded. Her jade-like hand tugged at Li Lingshan's arm and shook it continuously. However, her eyes were fixated on the terrifying sea beast below with a hint of fear on her face. Li Lingtian closed his eyes and observed his surroundings with his divine consciousness while he dodged the attacks skillfully. He ignored Tang Ziming's pleas. There were no other experts or sea beasts in this place. It was a good place to train Tang Ziming and the others. This was also the best experience. Such an opportunity was rare, so he naturally couldn't miss it. Sister Genji, Sister Meng Meng, let's attack. Your big brother Lingtian won't dote on you. Huangfu Yuyan looked at Li Lingtian and said to Tang Ziming before she giggled. Naturally, she understood Li Lingtian's intentions. Tang Ziming and the rest understood his intentions as well. They knew that Li Lingtian was doing this for their own good. Otherwise, Li Lingtian would have countless ways to deal with this sea beast. Yeah, Sister Meng Meng, you guys go ahead. I'll hold the fort for you. Shenyuan Yinglong also laughed. However, as soon as she finished speaking, the 5 elements sacred body in her body was activated. The 5 elements Tao intent was also displayed, and her eyes revealed a serious expression. Even though she didn't make a move, it was the most important thing for her to hold the line. This was because the safety of Huangfu Yuyan and the others was in her hands. If there was any danger, she would be the first to deal with it. Chapter 843, Floating Island, 1. 5 Elements Reincarnation. Huangfu Yuyan, Tang Qingyue, Shunmei Tang Ziming, and Qingling stopped talking. The true essence in his entire body circulated. Immediately, the powerful true essence spun rapidly, and the 5 true essence gradually fused together. At the same time, the 5 of them turned into 5 rays of light in the air. The 5 rays of light formed a ring and kept flashing. In an instant, a magical and powerful formation was formed. Originally, they were only at the 7th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm. However, after joining forces, the power produced was extremely powerful. This aura was completely able to compete with the pressure of the sea beasts below. Li Lingtian opened his eyes and with a wave of his hand, the pressure that was resisting the sea beast dissipated. He had completely handed over this terrifyingly powerful sea beast to Huangfu Yuyan and the others. Since he wanted to train them, he had to hand it over to them completely. No matter what methods they used, it was all their business. Rumble! With a loud explosion, the pressure of the 5 elements reincarnation and the pressure of the sea beast collided. The sea area shook, and shocking waves soared into the sky. However, just as the waves were about to hit the flying ship, Huangfu Yuyan cast a spell seal with one hand. Immediately, a mysterious force pressed down on the waves. Crash! With a crashing sound, a mysterious power offset the terrifying waves. At the same time, Tang Qingyue and the others also launched terrifying attacks at the sea beast. If the 5 of them did not join forces, they would only be at the 7th level Martial Emperor realm. With the power of a 7th level Martial Emperor realm, even a level 1 rank 9 sea beast would not be affected by their attacks. However, when the 5 of them joined forces, their power would immediately be heaven-defying. The destructive attacks were like meteors that continuously bombarded the aquatic beast's body. Meh, meh. The sea beasts roared, tearing through the air. I didn't expect your wives to join hands. It's beyond my imagination. Bei Minxue said to Li Lingtian as she watched the battle on the sea. She did not expect that the combined power of the 5 martial supreme realm girls could actually fight against a martial god realm sea beast. Although he had heard that they were very powerful when they worked together, he only felt terrified after seeing them in person. Of course. The corners of Li Lingxian's mouth curled into a faint smile. His face was filled with pride. Humph, look at your smug look. Bei Minxue was stunned. She didn't expect that the man who could stand up to the heavens and make all the experts in the world tremble in fear would also be like this. It was completely beyond her imagination. Thinking back, the young man in front of her was only 24 or 25 years old, 2 years younger than her. Moreover, such a heaven-defying monster was naturally cultivating most of the time. It was naturally very normal for him to have a child's temperament now. To be able to see such an expert reveal his childish nature was also a blessing. It meant that this young man did not treat her as an outsider. Sister Xue. Xiaoyao called out softly when she saw Bei Mingxu's expression. A sly smile appeared in her beautiful eyes. Bei Minxue was instantly embarrassed. She had always been arrogant and aloof, never saying a word or smiling. She didn't expect that she would show her little daughter's side at this moment. Rumble. Moo moo. Above the sea, a shocking explosion and a terrifying roar mixed in. For a moment, the sea seemed to be destroyed. Imprisonment. Stop. Destruction. At this moment, Huangfu Yuyan and the others had already circulated the 5 elements reincarnation to the limit. The 5 of them looked at each other and immediately released their strongest attack. In an instant, the huge sea beast was temporarily imprisoned. At the moment of imprisonment, the 5 of them fiercely bombarded the destructive true essence. Immediately, the sky and sea trembled, and a destructive water pillar shot into the sky. A 5-colored beam of light appeared in the void. The 5-colored beam of light fused with the 5 people's true essence. There was no time difference at all as the 5-colored beam of light bombarded the sea beast. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the 5-colored pillar of light directly penetrated the body of the sea beast. At the same time, the destructive power shattered the sea beast. The island-sized sea beast was torn into pieces at this moment. Shenyuan Yinglong also made her move. Looking at the water pillar that soared into the sky, a smile appeared on her face. The water will of the 5 elements was activated. With a flick of her divine sense, the will of the great path of water controlled the water column in the air. With a wave of her hand, the shocking water column turned into seawater and fused with the sea area. The sky and sea area slowly recovered again. Yes! At that moment, Li Lingtian waved his hand across the air and a ray of light shot toward the sea beast. At the same time, he made a grabbing motion with his palm, and a fist-sized inner core returned to him. The inner core was covered in a black halo, and a terrifying demonic chi was emitted. The inner core of a level 1 9th grade sea beast is basically of the water attribute, and the water attribute is black. Li Lingtian looked at the inner core in front of him as he spoke slowly. He then took out a jade box and stored the inner core in it before placing it back into the divine dragon ring. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Huangfu Yuyan and the others returned to the flying ship, their faces filled with excitement. It was indeed exciting to work together to kill a martial god-level sea beast. Even if the sea beast was clumsy and did not have the intelligence of a human, and its speed was also limited, it was still reasonable for it to be killed. However, even so, It had to be said that Huangfu Yuyan and the others' strength was enough to fight an ordinary martial god when they joined forces. Not bad. Your combined strength has increased quite a bit. It's rare for a seventh heaven martial emperor to kill a martial god sea beast. As long as your cultivation reaches the martial saint realm, the power of the 5 elements reincarnation will be even more powerful. Li Lingtian looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the others with a gentle expression as he spoke gently. He reached out and stroked Tang Ziming's hair gently. Let's go. Don't show off your love. Bei Minxue looked at Li Lingtian, Tang Ziming, and the others and smiled as she shouted at them. As a girl, she naturally felt uncomfortable watching others being affectionate. Li Lingtian was taken aback. He turned to look at Bei Minxue but did not say anything. Instead, he steered the spaceship and flew away. Above the sea, there was an endless dark sea and a blue sky. There were no flying objects or islands in sight. Even experts would feel irritated in such a sea area. Fortunately, there were quite a few people on the spaceship with Li Lingtian and the others. Instead, it was filled with cheers and laughter. Li Lingtian piloted the spaceship and scanned his surroundings with his divine consciousness from time to time, taking in everything around him. Time passed day by day. Along the way, they encountered many experts, but none of them made a move. They were all looking for the location of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. In the depths of the blue sea, there was a cloud of mist. The clouds blocked the deepest part of the sea, and one could not see what the deepest part looked like. Within the clouds and mist, there was a floating island that was tens of thousands of miles away. A floating island. This island is not in the sea area. Instead, it's floating hundreds of miles above the sea. I wonder how big this floating island is and what it looks like. However, there was a palace not far away from the island. The red pavilion in the palace was flashing with a faint light. Moreover, there was a mysterious light floating above the palace. The mysterious light was like a colorful cloud floating, but these lights were always around the palace. The spiritual energy in the sky and sea constantly entered the palace. The more spiritual energy there was, the more light there was on the palace. At this moment, there were already countless experts gathered on this floating island. All the experts who came here looked at this palace in shock, completely attracted by the mystery of the palace. At a glance, there were more than 200 experts here. Moreover, the powerhouses who came here were all 9th heavenly layer martial saints. The rest were martial gods with extremely terrifying strength. That is the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. Is this the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace? What a mysterious aura. I didn't expect this to be the legendary Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. It is indeed mysterious and ethereal. Yes, I am. I wonder what kind of powerful treasures there are in the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace that opens once every 2,000 years. I wonder when this Immortal Palace will open? It should be soon. I have already calculated that the opening time of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace is about half a month later. If it's half a month, I wonder when the token will appear. There are so many people here, but only 99 tokens. It seems like another earth-shattering battle will occur. On the floating island, countless experts were discussing. However, the experts in this place did not dare to provoke any trouble. Because if they really caused trouble here, the other experts could easily kill one of them. No one wanted to die before entering the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace, unless they were fighting for the token. Swoosh, swoosh. From time to time, more experts flew over from the island. When they saw the palace on the island, they were all extremely surprised. As time passed, the number of experts on the floating island increased. However, there was still no news about the token of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. The Xiaoyao Immortal Palace opens once every 2,000 years. 5 days later, 99 tokens will be scattered on the island. Gather 99 tokens to open the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. Otherwise, the Xiaoyao Immortal Palace will appear again in 2,000 years. At this moment, an ethereal voice came from the Immortal Palace. It was cold and emotionless. The voice came suddenly and left suddenly, causing all the experts on the floating island to be incomparably shocked. This sudden voice shocked countless experts. However, no one dared to make a sound, and no one made the slightest movement. 5 days later, everyone would fight for the 99 tokens. Now that they had 5 days, they could take advantage of the 5 days to recuperate. However, Li Lingshan's spaceship was flying at a high speed in the ocean that was tens of thousands of miles away. At this moment, Li Lingshan's expression turned anxious. After all, it had been a long time, but he had yet to discover any trace of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace. Moreover, he would encounter powerhouses in the sea area from time to time, which was fraught with danger. These 2 days, he killed 6 or 7 Tier 9 sea beasts and even killed 2 martial god powerhouses. If this continued, the matter of Xiaoyao Immortal Palace would be in vain. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.